Welcome everybody to the 15th episode of Mahogany Thoughts. We are going to do year-end review of all the episodes that we did in 2020, and with my co-host and dear friend, true brother, Mr. Terrence Butler. What's going on?
What's happening? 1-5. It's a big deal.
I know, man. So right before we had recorded this episode, we was talking offline, and we was just talking about how crazy it is to have 15 episodes. I mean, like when we first started this whole podcast concept, we was fumbling around at a co-working space and we had all this technology and all this equipment. We didn't know what we was doing. And so here we are on December the 29th, excuse me, and we are like 15 episodes in, 900, over 900 minutes. We probably had, I would probably venture to say several thousand Facebook views, just based on the numbers that I see when I have it shared on the page. And then on the YouTube views, I mean, we're probably in the hundreds, and just actual downloads from Spotify and other sources, we're in the hundreds as well. So, I mean, it's progress, right?
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember when we were you talking about the co-working space. I think once you saw everything was set up, you're like, oh, I can go buy me a mic, or I can go do this.
Oh, yeah, that's a fact. I mean, that's exactly what I did. Because after
you got your own home studio.
Yeah, I mean, and for those who are able to see the video, I mean, you can see I got a microphone, I got the headphones and all the other equipment, but I don't know how to use it yet. But I mean, yeah, it was just one of those things. It's like either I'm gonna pay $150 a month plus studio time, or I'm just gonna get my own equipment and just trying to find a way to make it happen. So, I mean, when we tried to do this, it was before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, I remember we was chopping it up about it, and it was like, well, we might as well just continue to do it in this format. So bunch of fits and starts. Some of the first episodes, they have been destroyed, deleted, don't need to be aired, because we sounded pretty trashy at the beginning compared to where we are now and stuff. But for those who are interested in podcasting, we actually just downloaded a book. I can't remember the name of the book offhand, but we actually saw with the purchase of the book, it showed a video, and it was pretty cool just to show the different ways to kind of promote your brand and eventually try to get revenue sponsors and things like that. So, for those who do happen to listen to the podcast or have actually watched any of the videos, it's not an easy task to do. It's a lot of work that you do to put it together, securing the guests, some of the behind the scenes work, and just even getting the technology to work. So, this has definitely been a journey and stuff, but I think it was definitely worth it. I mean, it's just pretty cool, just the people that we've met. Well, I know you probably didn't know most of the people that was on yourself, Butler, but you just never realize like how many people are so talented in your circle, and even if they're not your very close friends, just people just how many talented people of color are just ripping and running around the streets of St. Louis. Everybody's pretty much local outside of Dr. Russell.
Right. Yeah, because you never know who other people know. Because I looked at like all the guests you brought in, I was like, I didn't know about there were so many Black therapists. About the work Mr. Hurd was doing down in the cities, things like that. So it's been a blast. I learned a whole lot, and Dr. Peoples on the chiropractic tip. So I learned a lot, most definitely.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into the show in a couple of minutes, and we're actually going to go through a presentation. We're going to go through each slide, or every episode is going to be presented as a slide, and we're going to go over that particular guest and their profile and what we talked about, just some things that kind of stood out from those conversations. And then for those who are interested in their services, for those who actually do have services that are being promoted, their contact information, the website information is provided, because, like I said, over the last 5 or 6 episodes, Black Wall Street can be a digital Black Wall Street. And when you go to that street, you're able to go to that neighborhood and see different people, different talents, different, skill sets of people of color that are, readily available. Back then you were able to walk there, but now you're able to use technology and all types of other little means to get a hold of these resources. So, we've, evolved this podcast over time to be more of a influencer and a repository of resources, not suppository, but a repository of resources. But before we get into that, Butler, you're rocking the U today. You on mute, man.
Yeah, I got my turnover chain for Christmas. And so I said, what a game going on now. And I had to rock it along with the sweatshirt. And it's crazy. Like once we start rocking the chain, you saw so many other teams across the country. They getting the chain for scoring touchdowns or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So we always been the ones that set trends, set since the 80s, but like trying to get back to that spot. But I've been a fan since the 90s.
The wild 90s. They had a squad back then. They had a squad. They was loaded, man, from the playmaker, Warren Sapp, Ed Reed, Frank Gore, Clinton Portis. I mean, man.
Do you know, just real quick on Frank Gore? Frank Gore is, I think, one of the only other running backs beside Emmitt Smith and either Eric. I'm not sure. He just tied a record with Emmitt Smith and another running back. I think the only ones ever rush over 30,000 or 20,000 yards. Like Frank Gore still in the league running the ball, which is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he's OG
it's
for real.
Crazy.
And the thing about Frank Gore is that he had two torn ACLs. He had 3, didn't he? I know he had.
I don't know how many he had. That I don't know.
He had 2 because I know that he was hurt maybe against maybe Ohio State. So, but yeah, Miami, they've always been trendsetters. You know, that's what makes Miami dope. So Christmas was good though, man.
Oh yeah, no complaints.
Absolutely.
Everybody healthy. Kids got spoiled and whatnot. So it was a good day.
Yeah, Christmas was different this year. You know, my son is still in Florida in the Air Force, and so I had to ship his gifts off, you know, for him to get it and whatnot and stuff. So I had to ship it out to his uncle and aunt and make sure that they were able to deliver it, because if you know, a bunch of teenagers, 20-year-olds, you leave a package out in front of the dorms, you could get cuffed. So I had to make sure that the package was delivered. And so, you know, we FaceTime, you know, we did the gifts at the house and then at mom's house and whatnot. And it was a little different and stuff. And you know, I get to see him next month. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna drive his car.
Oh, sure. What's been like 3 or 4 months now?
He's been on since October the 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been gone since October the 6th. So, you know, we talk about a couple of times a week, you know, mostly not, you know, about nothing. And actually, I've heard more from him on the phone while he's been gone than I probably did in the last 5 years combined and stuff. Because I'm like, yeah, he's bored.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think the other night he called me.
Once they get locked up in their room on that game, you don't even know they're home most of the time.
Absolutely, you know. So I mean, he'll be all right though. I mean, I know he's doing well. He's passing all his tests and he's doing everything that he needs to do and stuff. So I mean, proud of him and stuff. But yeah, Christmas is a little different and stuff. But yeah, I mean, for me, I really don't make a big fuss about Christmas, birthdays, and things like that. I try to keep things in perspective. You know, every day to me, every day above ground is a blessing. That's the way I look at it, and I just keep it moving from there. You know, so
no doubt.
Yeah, so for me, it's you know, I had got actually, you know what, I did get a dope gift. It was a Ninja grill. You know, I had to show you next time you come over, but it was like yeah. I threw some fillets on there with the bacon wrap fillets, some shrimp, and some ribs on there and stuff, and it cooked.
Yeah, you're gonna once you start using those things, you're gonna get addicted to them. Like trying out recipes and stuff. Really addicted to.
Oh yeah, you know I like to cook too. So I mean, and it's funny because that gift came right on time because I was gonna go out and grill that on Christmas Day, and it was hella cold. So I mean, to get that grill, man, that was right on time.
Yeah, another little funny story. So like apparently my oldest, she's trying to date now.
Oh yeah.
And so
how's that going?
I'm supposed to meet whatever. I haven't like gone on a date yet. So I said you got to bring them by to meet.
You ain't gonna do them like. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, I'm probably gonna be worse.
You ain't gonna
have fun
from Players Club.
No, I'm gonna do them like either like 50 did in the one movie. I forgot the name of the movie, or like they did them in Bad Boy. Martin and Mike Lowry.
Yeah, you rough.
Yeah, I probably have a strap at the door,
Well, if you need somebody,
something outlandish, just because.
what?
Because I've envisioned this moment for so long, so I got to make it epic in my
You
mind.
say you've been envisioning it.
Yeah, I've been envisioning the first time I had to meet somebody that want to date my daughter. I just envisioned that day. So it's coming up on me. So it should be interesting.
Absolutely. What are you on a computer or are you on a phone? Because your camera keeps on rocking.
Computer.
Oh, computer. I don't know why.
I'm on my laptop, so my legs might be moved. Let me be still.
Okay. Yeah, because it was looking kind of shaky. Well, we're
Gotcha.
gonna get it. We're gonna get straight into it and stuff. I know Carmel just texted me. She's gonna try to hop on. She was a 3-time guest. Yeah, so she's actually officially a friend of the show.
Oh, yeah. Queen, be yourself.
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and get this thing on the road, and we're gonna get straight into it and stuff. So last episode of 2020, we have 15 episodes under our belt, and we're gonna go through a quick little review and just a special thank you for everybody that was able to participate, and a special thank you for everybody that was able to watch. I mean, that was a very special moment to be able to do that and share these opportunities with you guys. So definitely appreciate that. What is going on with this? So what do you think? What are you looking for in 21 though? As far as what do you want to see the podcast evolve to? While I'm getting everything queued up.
I would like to see it like post COVID. See us be more live in different places, talking to different people, different genres. Just be more mobile, be more interactive.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully post COVID, and even if what you call it, I was going to say, even if COVID has had some form of restrictions, because I think it's going to take a while for things to change. I think that we can be able to do some live on locations, in a safe and responsible fashion. So I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, I'm not going to, 100% wait for it. I mean, I'm not going to wait for things to be 100% wide open, you know,
Right.
but it definitely should be interesting though.
Yeah, even if we can still do even if we can still go to places, we can still safe distance, social distance, wherever they call it. Mask
Absolutely.
up, keep everybody safe. What
Absolutely.
up, Queen B?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. What's going on with you?
Well, I was struggling to get on, and so thank you for sending me the passcode. For some reason, it was denying my access. So I am finally joined in. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing great.
Doing
Wonderful, wonderful.
splendid.
Did I hear someone talking about dating? What's going on here? I mean, we're getting ready to start a new year, and so new year, new beginning. So,
Oh, I was talking about my daughter possibly going on a date, and so
oh,
this
so
will be,
cute.
this will be the first time I get to meet uh, one of her friends or whatever. So
Sure.
I'm looking forward to the opportunity to meet this young man. I absolutely am.
Yeah,
Just to
that's kind of
put the full
scary.
vibe on.
Yeah. Well, how old is your daughter?
17.
Yeah, that's a really good age to start dating, and it is kind of scary for parents when your kids start to date. I actually work with a lot of teenagers and young adults that are starting the whole dating scene, and they have a lot of anxiety about it and worry about whether or not their parents are going to approve of it, and so it's a pretty anxiety provoking time for everybody.
Gotcha.
Well, I
Yeah,
tell you what, Butler, if you need it and stuff, I got a black Audi with tinted windows. So if you need to do
gotcha. Okay.
some Tony
Getaway car.
Soprano type action, I'm on
Getaway car. I will definitely keep that in mind.
it.
This is gonna be fun.
That's great.
I'll probably come to the door in like a wife beater or something, and at least a baseball bat minimum, or some kind of power tool, something chainsaw esque,
Make sure
something.
Yeah,
you charge the battery though. Make sure you charge a lithium battery before you pull it out. You don't want to have a chainsaw and the mug's not charged.
Right, I got you. We'll definitely.
well,
Well, I have a few trial runs before
yeah.
that point.
Well, Terry, you can bring your daughter to me so that I can talk to her about how to deal with her father during this very challenging time.
She might need it. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So Carmel, you are officially a friend of the show. This is your third time on the show, and we thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I totally enjoy every time I get to connect with you guys. It's always a lot of fun, lots of great information.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Oh, good.
anytime you want to hop on the show, or if your schedule is open for it, you're more than welcome to be a regular contributor. So we'd definitely love to have a very balanced input into the
Sure.
podcast. Our previous regular contributor, she had other obligations and whatnot, so
Mhm.
she had to, put her focuses elsewhere, which was cool. And
Sure.
still truly supportive of her and everything. And I wish her the best. And I always told her that anytime she wants to come back on the show, I mean, this is, like I said, the podcast is for us. It's not
Yep.
just my baby or Butler's baby and stuff. I mean, it's a collective effort. So we can use this platform accordingly. We can just evolve it any way that we can. So you're more than welcome to hop on the show.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I'm here for it.
Cool. So we're gonna get into
So, do you happen to be a sports fan at all?
I there was a time when I was, but over time I feel like I've kind of moved away from sports for some reason. And I don't know what that was like in the 80s. And I don't know, I'm probably telling my age, but I was a huge basketball fan in the 80s and in the earlier 90s, but somewhere between mid 90s and late 90s, I kind of fell off from sports for some reason.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Life happens.
yeah, absolutely. Like I was really into sports back when like Isaiah Thomas and Dominic Wilkins and all of
Gotcha.
them were, really big in sports. And, once they all kind of moved on, I don't know why, I just kind of fell off from it.
You like the state of the NBA now. I think if you're a basketball purist, where you came from, you would love the game now because there are so many players that are just so talented right now. You can even
Yeah.
watch like a bad team, like the Hawks or somebody like that. They don't really win, but you'll still watch the games because the players are so talented.
Sure.
And I don't
Well,
think it hasn't been this way in a long time. I was saying like the last 2-3 years, the talent has gotten better.
yeah. Well, I will definitely have to tune in and see what's going on these days.
Absolutely.
Good,
Well, brother,
good.
Brother Tessie said, "What's up?" He just wanted to show some love. He's in the middle of something right now and stuff. So I just happened to see that on Facebook. So what up, Tessie, man? Much love to you, man. We love to have you back again, man. You dropped some serious knowledge, man.
Hey, Brother Tessie.
Well, we're going to go to the presentation. So like I said, we're just going to go recap the entire year in review. Carmel, I know that you wasn't involved in the majority of them and stuff, but if you want to add any insight to it, that's great.
Sure.
We're just going to kind of go over, the main points, and we're just going to promote and pub up these people who was able to dedicate the time to come on the show. So definitely much appreciated.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go to 2020 year in review. There's the podcast links. For those who are not able to see the actual recording, it is on the podcast is on Spotify under Mahogany Thoughts. The website is www.drtduncan.com, and it's under my YouTube channel, Dr. Terrence Duncan. So some people ask me, well, why did you use the term Mahogany Thoughts? So what it is that it's actually a spinoff of my project called the Mahogany Legacy Project. Carmel, you had talked about writing a book and the start and the stopping of it and the challenges of it. So actually, you know what? I read your book. I read about 45 pages in. I really love it so far, but I had to stop it because you know why? I had to write my own book, and I'm gonna get back to your book. I got the bookmark and everything, but the Mahogany Legacy Project is a project that I created by myself. It was actually started right around the Michael Brown incident that happened to St. Louis and Ferguson and whatnot. And so it was one of those things where it was almost like a call to action. Like I didn't, protest, directly on the streets, but it was one of those things and stuff like, I think it was a pivotal moment for Black America to really start getting more engaged in a variety of means. And so it's really interesting to see the evolution of people marching in the streets, protesting in the manner that they did, and to the point where you have so much social causes, so much social activism, and just so much a celebration of Black culture in a way that hasn't been seen in decades. So the actual project itself encompasses 5 areas of change, and those core themes includes the progressive change of healthcare, the progressive change of education, the progressive change of employment, the progressive change of financial independence, and the progressive change of social change. By utilizing these 5 different areas, you're able to achieve a legacy building perspective by attacking some of the more stubborn, systemic issues that affect the Black community. So there are serious gaps in healthcare disparities. There's serious education attainment gaps. You have pay disparities. You also have lack of access to entrepreneurs, lack of capital access to entrepreneurs. You also have poor labor placement rates as far as Blacks earning higher paying jobs under financial independence. We talk about the net worth, the difference of Black net worth and compared to other cultures, other races. We talk about the lack of savings that Black households have, and just the lack of investing into a retirement. So I know that one common argument that I hear is that, well, you can't save if you're not earning money. Well, we're going to get into that heavy in 21, where we're going to dispel that myth, because there was times and stuff where I was very burdened with debt, and I was able to find a plan to get out of it without getting any kind of significant change of income. So there were several years where I was not getting a raise. And so we're going to talk about strategies to help establish your financial independence, including, securing the appropriate life insurance and social change. What does social change look like? We talk about environmental racism this year, and we're going to talk about other areas of systemic changes that need to be addressed. So one way to provide one way to address systemic racism is to provide a systemic response. And so just solving one area, such as maybe criminal justice or making sure Blacks get money from Amazon, that's only one small subsegment. But making sure we have access to technology, healthcare, food, getting rid of food deserts, transportation, having employment in the communities where Blacks reside, where predominantly reside, those should be our priorities, focus within the community. So that's what the book is mostly about. Background about myself, I actually have a doctorate in business. I earned that in 2016, and I had 15 years of healthcare, human resources, and risk management experience. I actually serve as an associate faculty in a Doctor of Healthcare Administration program for the University of Phoenix. And I also serve as the subject matter expert in healthcare economics. I'm also a member of the faculty and a dissertation chair for Liberty University. And I serve on several boards, where one of them I am the president, and I have 2 books that are available on Amazon, and I actually have one in the works. So for those who are able to view the YouTube channel or the actual Facebook simulcast, you'll be able to see the websites. If not, it's when I do get my website redesigned, all these slides, all the information and resources provided in this particular podcast will be made available for you. Co-host Terrence Butler. Butler, I had to get you on the BS Zoology again.
I gotta embrace it. Why not?
So, true story though. So I actually was watching a movie. I can't even remember which one it was, but whatever it was talking about something about a zoologist. Was it on Wonder Woman? It was on Wonder Woman.
The new one?
Yeah.
I gotta check out.
You can get off mute.
I gotta check out 84 there.
Yeah. So it was that, and then I saw some other movie and stuff. I was like, man, I had never paid attention to zoology until you said something. So I had to give you big ups.
You would have no reason to.
I mean, it's no shade.
It's like you have to be like born with like a love for just the animals and everything to be a zoologist. Like I see no reason why anybody would just say, like nobody said something and say, I just want to be a zoologist one day. Nobody ever in life ever said that.
So you can't be racist against zebras.
I guess not.
I think, Dr. Duncan, I think it's safe to say that Terrence Butler is our favorite zoologist.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Gotta be.
He's also our only zoologist, but he's our favorite zoologist.
With a brand of some kind of way.
But you know what, though? So the funny thing about it, and the reason why I say it's no shade and stuff, is because I had a BS in management, but it didn't really do anything, until I didn't get my management experience until I was working on my doctorate, because most of the time I don't put Black people in high positions like that, so I had to wait. But the thing is that you actually see evolution. when I look at your profile, I look at evolution and stuff because, it started off with the entrepreneur and insurance broker, and that's your business. I mean, you have to look at it from a standpoint. You've been doing this for 13 years, in the industry. And how long you been independent again?
I've been independent for 8 years now.
Okay, so for 8 years. So, in Carmel, I remember reading your profile when I was getting your slides ready for your last presentation. I mean, look at where you started. If I recall correctly, you started off in the criminal justice system as a probation and parole officer and stuff. So,
Yep.
The thing is, we only have one time on this planet. Might as well make the best of it. And there's nothing wrong to pivot. If you think that you made a bad decision with your education or whatever the case may be, and I'll say it again till I turn blue in the face, I flunked out of college twice.
Sure. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I even got a C in statistics in my doctoral program, and here I am. I got 7 people that's working on their dissertations under my leadership. So, and
Awesome.
what I tell them to do is statistics. So
Certainly.
so I mean, really, it's not so much of pivoting; it's just a desire to do something more. If something's not working, make that adjustment. You're not.
Yeah, and finding out what your purpose in life is, because we can all sign up for a job.
Absolutely.
But the job that we work may not necessarily be connected to the purpose or just even who we are. And so when we figure out who we are and what our purpose is in life and what our actual gifts are and our talents are, then we are able to make better decisions about what we should be doing for a living so that we can love what we do and do what we love.
Absolutely. Brian H. Hurd, Mr. Brian Hurd, my brother. What's going on, man?
What's good, brothers?
Not much, man.
Yeah. What's good, man?
How you feeling?
Hey, it's all good. Got the Terrences in the house and Ms. Brown.
Sure. Hello.
Yeah, doing well.
Well,
So
thank you.
Who was the guy right here on the screen right now? I'm sorry, who is this? I mean, that's a smooth brother. I mean, he could be good in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s,
Black Dynamite.
Hey, that's ageless there, bro.
I'm thinking that's more 80s.
It's all good, my brother. It's all good. Good evening.
Absolutely. And for those who missed the podcast with Mr. Hurd and stuff, Mr. Hurd is a very versatile brother, and we're going to highlight him on his slide when that time comes to pass and stuff. But very talented brother, and is glad that he was able to hop on the show. And Brian, man, we're just kind of just going having a recap and just inviting all the guests on there. We're just going to talk about some slides and or just talk to the prior episodes, and we're just going to reflect and just be grateful and blessed and stuff that we're able to knock out 15 episodes in a year.
Hey, real quick, I want to mention I'm seeing so many I guess say Black men and women now starting new businesses. I'm getting so many calls from more calls than ever from business owners want to start new ventures. Everything from trucking to cleaning businesses, making their own products and things like that. So I'm really seeing the uptick that people stepping out and in pursuit of their entrepreneurial goals, which is cool.
Well, make sure you tell them that they need a risk manager, and that's a fact. So if you need risk management, policy development, market research, I'm that guy.
And a business plan, and a solid business plan, a business mentor and or coach, and also making sure that they are starting a business and not a hustle. There is a difference.
Absolutely. Because I would sit there and say on the record, for the first several years, I've been doing nothing but hustling. Now I'm about my business, and so there was a reason for hustle and stuff, and it worked out. But yeah, no, that's a fact right there. So definitely much appreciated. But yeah, so Butler, so for those who are actually on Facebook Live and are able to see it on the YouTube channel, you're able to see his website. I actually put the banner from his website on there, and 15 years financial services, insurance industry and stuff, man. Like I said, I met him through a mutual friend, cousin, and we clicked ever since. So, much love to him and stuff, man. We did a couple other, mentoring projects before, and we definitely look forward to doing some more stuff in the future.
Right, absolutely. Also, I'm trying to branch out to about 10 more states. So right now, just do Illinois, Missouri. So I want to pick up. I did a little research. 10 more markets that are, well, I guess, the price where we're competitive as far as pricing goes. So definitely trying to move forward and expand. I'm tired of working. I just want to manage at this point.
All right.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Well, the first episode, we talked about the foundation for legacy building and life insurance. This was a little bit more up your alley. I know this is the very first episode. We talked about, how do we got started, our path there. We talked about different types of life insurance and how to transfer wealth via life insurance and how to shop for life insurance. And actually what you said, Butler, was a segue for this particular episode because of the fact, like you said, during the pandemic, you're having a proliferation of Black businesses that are trying to start up or in the process of operating. They maybe want to expand insurance coverages. And it's just really, you say this is a very good time to be Black, despite all the things that's going on and stuff, because this is the central question that I had posed in the book was that if the civil rights leaders today were still alive, what would they be fighting for? Because in the beginning, they fought for basic human rights, with just the most basic rights. And then before Brother Malcolm and Brother Martin and a couple others were, killed or incarcerated, they started pivoting to more of an economic message. And that's when it was like, oh, whoa, let's pump the brakes. So this is our opportunity to really jumpstart, in this particular matter. And I know Brian is much involved with the Alphas. And actually also has a church service on Martin Luther King Day. Brian, if you want to just talk about that real quick.
So so the Martin Luther King observance is something we do every year around the country. But here in St. Louis, we're very fortunate to have in the Fountain Park neighborhood in the city of St. Louis, the only MLK statue in the entire state of Missouri. And the fascinating thing is we have a brother named Reverend Derek Perkins, who's the pastor at Centennial Christian Church, which is right directly across the street from the park and the statue. His church is there. So we have a strong bond with that neighborhood and with the church, of course. And so he serves as an anchor to help us promote and to do various events. So we actually have like a 4-day series of events, from an art and essay contest for youth. We have a reading program that we're doing with Washington Montessori School. And then we also have a commencement exercise or commencement service, as well as a peace march on Saturday, January the 16th. Those events begin at 10 o'clock a.m. The march begins at 10:45 a.m. right afterwards. So we're looking forward to it. We'll be collecting PPE equipment. That equipment will go to seniors at some housing developments in the area, that those who need, PPE related materials and supplies. We'll be donating those to some facilities to help our seniors there, as well as providing lunch for them on that day. So, we're looking forward to it. And the day of service, all the events, is something that we always get excited about in honor of Brother King, who certainly was our human rights brother, our civil rights brother, and for the Alphas, of course, our fraternity brother. So we're looking forward to being a part of that. And I would say also this year, the theme is about health and equity. So looking at the Delmar Divide, we have some various partners as well on both sides of Delmar. So we're trying to bridge that gap as it relates to the pandemic and also just historic health inequities as well. So those are things we'll be addressing in January.
That's dope, man. And I already indicated I'm going to the event on that Saturday at 10 in the March. So weather permitting, I expect to be there, full-heartedly and stuff. So thank you for sharing that information. And I share.
Yeah, we look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Definitely. And see, that's what I really, really appreciate about, what we've been doing with this podcast is be able to connect like the way that we have and stuff. I mean, I met Hurd through a sports group, mutual friends, and we just, sat down, broke bread a couple of times, and we just continue to keep on connected and stuff. So it's, it's definitely an honor, man, to meet a solid brother like you. So definitely appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I'm humble, brother. Thank you.
No doubt. Second episode, we talked about healthcare disparities and COVID with D'Anthony Moore, Phi Beta Sigma. D'Anthony owned HD Fitness. It's on Delmar Boulevard, and he's been owning this for over 10 years. And he provided fitness expertise throughout the St. Louis region. And we discussed the connection to poor healthcare and obesity. We talked about healthcare deserts and poor nutrition. And we talked about even during the state of COVID, which continued to hold true from that discussion we had back in March, I believe, was that, your nutrition and your lifestyle could actually affect, your recovery period from, and also prevention for COVID. So even though more research is still being conducted, I mean, right now they're more focused on the vaccination. It was really good to have D'Anthony on there, and I appreciate Frat for, getting on the mic and everything. And Carmel, I know Butler had said one day and stuff, man, we're going to have to get people from his gym and your gym. We're going to have to live stream it or something like that. Have like I don't know, American Ninja Warrior or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe we'll have an American Arch Warriors or something like that. That would be kind of dope. Have people from your squad and his squad, maybe do a fundraiser. Like
Absolutely, mahogany style.
Yeah, mahogany style. It's gonna be a lot of laughs.
In the basketball, so they can put some shots up.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
And every guest that did participate on the show, this is my promise to them when they came on board. First of all, thanks again for participating. But what I wanted to do too is that I promised them that I was going to have the information available for, to help promote their business, because this is a grassroots podcast, so it's not like we're a radio station give you prizes and entice you with money to come on board, volunteering their time. So the best way to be able to say thank you is to help promote their business and their services. And so from what I'm hearing over time, a lot of people have picked up more activity, friends requests, or, information, based on the podcast. So that's where that the system is working.
Yeah, I've definitely expanded my network.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Dr. Robert Russell.
Yes.
Yeah, man, he's a good brother. So I met Dr. Russell through a sports group, and it was actually funny. We actually worked for the same company. All this time we would sit there, I would run into him in West Lafayette, Indiana. There's hardly any of us up in West Lafayette, Indiana. But he had a couple of buildings in that territory, and I was a corporate risk manager for 43 buildings. And one day we were sitting there chopping it up, and he was talking about the basketball game. And there's probably something about LeBron, because, I always be saying stuff about LeBron. I mean, I like LeBron as a person, but I'm just, Kobe, number 24, number 8, Black Mamba, my guy. But anyways, we was talking, he said, Terrence, I said, what's up? He said, aren't you on a sports group? I'm like, yeah, I know that's why you look familiar. Sometimes the light bulb doesn't come on. I'm not even gonna lie. Sometimes I can figure things out like in a matter of seconds, and sometimes I'll be looking at you like, yeah. So anyways, that's the true story how I met Dr. Russell. But anyways, he's a physician. He went to a HBCU down at Xavier University in New Orleans. Real solid brother, very knowledgeable cat. Hurd, I know you can attest to that. Very, very knowledgeable. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, love holding court with him over the phone. And very busy brother and stuff. But we discussed his personal experience and his battle against COVID. So he actually tested positive. He treats residents in the nursing home communities, and he actually contracted COVID. And Butler, I think if you remember, him and his wife, they got sick, and even though his wife had fared for the better, he thought he had to go to the hospital. With the cough.
I remember that, and I think that was so relevant because that was when we may not have known many people that had already had the virus. It was still kind of new coming out. So like to have somebody like that actually told you how he was feeling, different stages.
Right.
That was awesome. It wasn't awesome. It was just, I guess, very knowledgeable to know the different stages of it, how it can affect people one way and somebody else they're not affected. So that was definitely one of my favorites, not knowing much about the virus at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, what I like about Dr. Russell too is that he actually focuses in the research, like where he looks at it on the clinical aspect, I focus on the healthcare aspect. So, I'm not all things COVID, but, I do read, a lot of the research reports, that comes through and stuff, and the classes that I teach in healthcare administration, the majority of these, people are going in, obviously they're going to be writing about COVID. So we talk about everything from COVID and business and COVID and minorities in healthcare. We talk about just, economically, about wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, just the data there is just it's really intriguing just to read and whatnot and stuff. But from a clinical perspective, I would love to get him back on and talk about taking the vaccine and his thoughts about taking the vaccine. And
Absolutely, that'd be a good one.
yeah, that would be really good one and stuff, because I know there's a lot of resistance, and rightfully so. And we actually did talk about that. Actually, if I remember, we did talk about the resistance. Actually, that was on the next episode, but we did talk about the Tuskegee experiment, and just even with the history in St. Louis, with blacks being mistreated in the hospital. Was it Homie G. Phillips, correct? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Hospital in St. Louis and stuff, and even in just throughout history and stuff, blacks have been exploited for medical treatments, given bogus vaccines, etc. So the mistrust is legitimate, and it's really interesting and stuff. Like now all of a sudden the national media is really concerned and stuff. It's like, why aren't black people getting vaccines?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we could tell you the real answer, or we could go politically correct. So, but we also talked about recommendations to boost the immune system during COVID and in general. We talked about probiotics, elderberry, and other herbals and supplements that are good for cleansing your system from toxins and mucus buildup. And we discussed how economics and healthcare are related. On episode 4, we had a panel discussion, and
Going
this
back to that real quick.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say something else that was that hit me while you were talking regarding the vaccine and whatnot. I think it's still crazy that blacks and minorities are the ones dying the most from it and getting more sick than anybody else. I still think that's, now you see those numbers, is crazy to me.
Well, yeah, and actually, if you remember, I actually called it. I said that, that if we don't be surprised if we actually have the highest disparity related numbers dealing with COVID, because of the fact that it attacks pre-existing conditions. And based on the research, we don't, blacks historically do not go to the doctor. I know in the dialysis field, like 35% of 35% of dialysis patients are African-American, and by the time you get to dialysis, I mean, there's a combination of factors and stuff, but a lot of it is pre-existing conditions, and some of it exasperated by poor eating habits, stress, and other systemic issues that go along, for us and stuff. So it's not surprising and stuff to see a lot of deaths and a lot of people in the hospital, which maybe Hurd, maybe this might be up your alley where you could chime in too, on when you look at economic mobility and stuff, where you're seeing, unfortunately, COVID is hitting harder, for those that may be a little bit lower in economic scale, in an economic inequality scale compared to those who might be a little bit more upwardly mobile, because they're more likely to go to the doctor and because they actually have health insurance. So again, the correlation between, being ill or, getting really sick with COVID stems a lot from having acute illnesses turn to chronic problems, such as heart problems, heart disease, diabetes. Hurd, what do you think on that point?
I mean, it's a good point. I think, I think cultural experience is probably the biggest thing, because there are a lot of people who have insurance. A lot of us who have insurance, particularly black men, who won't go see the doctor.
Absolutely. Well, I probably should change it to healthcare utilization. I'm sorry, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, it works in the combinations of things about, the cost of healthcare, not having access to insurance, not having access to good information. I mean, it's all of it. It's not one thing; it's all of it together, man. But it's we need more black doctors, like Brother Russell. We need more young. I mean, there's a shortage of doctors already. We already know that. We see that with the pandemic. The healthcare system is at at a very sensitive level, which goes to show we need more doctors, but we also need specifically more black doctors. And I think the more younger people will get involved in medicine, I think that will serve our community well.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, that to me, that's the only solution. That's the only real solution. I don't care how accessible you put BJC hospitals, world-class facilities. You can put them right at people's doorsteps. There's a distrust, a disconnect. And really, as I tell people all the time, when you engage communities of color, particularly the Black community, you really have to have somebody at our level of understanding who communicates with us in our common language, in our shared experience. That will make me more inclined to go. So if I'm dealing with a group of, Terrence Butler and Dr. Terrence Duncan on a regular basis, and we're talking about these issues, and I'm more apt to go see my doctor. I'm sure you all probably do the same thing. If we're talking about it and we engage in saying, look, man, we want to be around for the long term. We want to be here for our families. We want to, do prevention versus, being in the reactive mode. We want to live a good, healthy life. I want to be able to see my daughters, graduate from high school and hopefully graduate from college and go on to do good things and whatnot. I want to be around and see those things, but, and then, everything's a modification too. So it's all of that together, man. We just got to do better in terms of our peer-to-peer, and we just need more Black doctors.
Absolutely. And, it's funny that you made that point. And Carmel, I'm going to ask if you want to chime in real quick on that too. But when you said about watching people graduate, and I'll never forget that, my healthcare scare actually was my father passing, shout out to the big man in the background. But I remember telling him that if his health didn't become improved, then he wouldn't see his grandson graduate. He didn't see his grandson graduate. He was 61 years old. My dad had, and, just to echo your sentiments, Hurd, my dad was retired Air Force. He was retired civil service, and he died a year and a half after retirement. And my dad was making well over 6 figures in retirement. He had the health care, but one thing was my dad was not he was not astute in following the physician orders, or he always knew what was best. And so, I mean, ultimately, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. But because what happened to him totally changed my whole entire perspective on life, from the way that I interact with people, the way I take care of my body, just like the intense dedication for rest, improving my cardio, fitness, diet, everything, and just even the company I keep, just like staying away from stressful relationships, with people. Those things really made a difference. And I don't think I would have made those changes if my dad didn't die, because now it's in my head. And I'm pretty sure for each of you guys too, is that I don't want to die. Good Lord willing, if my time to go, it's time to go. But I don't want to die before I see my grandkids graduate, if I have grandkids. So, and none of my kids have kids right now. So, I mean, hopefully the 14-year-old doesn't, because now I'm gonna be mad as hell. And hopefully the 20-year-old can hold off for a second. But yeah, that's a real fear though. Carmel.
Yeah, when we look at our history as African Americans regarding mental health and physical health, as a licensed clinical professional counselor and a certified personal trainer, I've done so much research over the years regarding just our history. And, African Americans are more likely to have high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease and so on and so forth. Not to mention the fact that historically we have completely ignored the history of mental health concerns. And so, we have to really face these things and realize that we have died and passed away prematurely historically as a result of our inability to and refusal to face these things. And so I think we're doing so much better today at looking at what we're facing as a race, and also being able to connect mental health and physical health, and being able to understand that if we do not systemically deal with these issues, that we're going to continue to see that our numbers are higher than numbers for people of other races. And you're absolutely right, Dr. Duncan.
Thank you.
So if I could chime in just briefly.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I mean, what she touches on is phenomenal. And I think the other thing that I do in my work is I look at social and physical determinants of health. So even where you come from, your zip code, your neighborhood, what you see every day, if you see violence, if you see blight, that has an adverse impact on your mentality. If you just see, no grass, no trees, no flowers, if you just see abandoned buildings, every day, that creates an adverse impact on your well-being. The other thing is, You look at trauma. I mean, trauma is something that a lot of us are exposed to, more than we know. That could be poverty. It could be food insecurity. It could be housing insecurity. There's a whole plethora of things that can adverse the outcomes of an individual and their life expectancy, how they perform in school, all those different things. So even where you come from, place matters, people matter, it all intersects. And so, the built environment plays a very large role, even the design of buildings, the design of neighborhoods, having sidewalks, having open space, green space. When you have those things, you have a healthy environment, you have a healthy outcome in life, generally speaking. But when you don't have those things, when you don't have programming for kids or, supportive systems for families, that environment and that zip code really does dictate, the outcomes of your life.
Absolutely. Well said too, man. Well said, because it's actually in my book, The Social Determinants of Health, and I did kind of expanded on it. So definitely valid points that you have provided. And that's, it kind of reminded me of an episode of Sopranos. I was watching, I'm streaming Sopranos because I haven't seen the entire show. I know it's been super old, but it was actually an episode today and stuff where, Tony Soprano was trying to buy the block. And it really was just for a hustle, another mafia hustle, whatever and stuff. But it was, this little black kid came to Tony Soprano and stuff and said, are you going to make the houses look nice? And Tony just gave him this look, but it was just something just for you to say that. I mean, I peeped it at that time and stuff, but just even something saying, can you put a nice house in my neighborhood? That's, that's real, because I was saying it kind of plays into the mental part, feeling like, are you trapped and can you get out and whatever the case may be and stuff. So Definitely well said, bro. The panel discussion that we had on episode 4, most of it we pretty much covered just briefly and stuff, but just to highlight another friend of the show, Charlotta Spicer. She does coaching and consulting, and she's actually provides ministries as well. And her contact information is provided on the slide. So, but if you want to email her contact information is coachsharspicer@gmail.com. And like I said, the slides will be actually available. And if you're able to see it on YouTube, you can go back and go through each of our guests as well as the website. Episode 5 and 6 was fun. I think episode 5 and 6, that's where we kind of started hitting our stride, Butler, with the Blacks in the Mental Health panel discussion. So we were able to get several very talented African-American therapists. And like Butler said, I didn't even, my mom's is a therapist, and I knew about Carmel beforehand. And Carmel, I know my mama, and my sister is also in mental health too. But it was just really amazing just to get all these therapists on the panel at one time for 2 episodes, 3 hours worth of great knowledge. And it's something I really, really encourage people to go back and check out. Because mental health is a serious issue in the Black community, and the disparity numbers are just off the roof. So it's something that we need to start addressing, not just on a podcast, but just having these open and honest discussions. So, I confided in, with Charlotta, privately a couple of days ago and stuff about the challenges I had, because I always kind of look at her as a big sister and more of a spiritual advisor, my spiritual advisor. But, I had told her I struggled on Christmas Eve. Like, I was literally in the bed, didn't get out, door closed, blinds closed and stuff. And the last time I was like that was when my father died. And that was almost 4 years ago. Never, all this time I've been ripping and running. And then the Christmas Eve, I just woke up and I just couldn't go. And so, I slept a lot, and, I went to go see my dad and at the cemetery, and that was hard. And then, my son being gone for the first time, and you just think about losing one of your best friends, early in the year too and stuff. It was just, I just woke up and I just wasn't feeling it. And, for me to be open and honest is not a sign of weakness. It's saying that it's okay for a Black man to express that there are days that you're struggling. It's not a sign of weakness. I think that if a Black man can be in touch with his feelings and his emotions, he can actually draw strength to be able to accomplish more, so just to have those conversations like that, with these great group of therapists, for those 3 hours, and then just really having them encouraging us to be honest with ourselves. really made a big difference. So every podcast, I always take something away. Butler.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main reasons too. You having an outlet to say whatever you had to say privately to Charlotta. Most Black men don't take advantage of those situations. We're like taught to hold things in, and we just try to grin and bear it. And I think that's one of the reasons too. I think our health is so bad as a whole due to holding on to too much stress. And then you add a bad diet to that. That's why you get all the strokes, heart attacks, things like that. But yeah, that's cool that you had somebody to kind of reach out to. That's you can hold all that in.
Yeah, absolutely. Christmas Day I was cool, but my sister stayed the night on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. My sister asked me what was wrong. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, went back to my room, and I just binged, watched TV and stuff. But you know what? I accepted it though. I accepted that it was just not a great day. And I understood. I was able to go process the reason why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and I just accepted it. Because you can't sit there and tell me that when you lost a parent and the holiday comes around that you don't get affected. You know what I mean? Like we could put a smile on our face all day and stuff, but you can't tell me that you're not sitting there thinking about a loved one. And I don't know what the trigger was. Doesn't even matter, but they say grieving, hits you at different times and stuff. And so it was just one of those days on Christmas Eve, I grieved. And, it really took a couple of days for me to really get back to my footing and stuff. But, when I came back out of it, I was good. I'm fine. I'm normal. I guess when quote unquote normal, I'm back to my, my old self or whatever the case may be and stuff. But, it's way much differently how I would handle grief than I probably would have handled it 5-10 years ago and stuff. So big ups to the mental health panel, Carmel.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Duncan, I do well over 100 counseling sessions per month. And, as an African American and working with lots of African American clients, I'm very proud actually today as we finish off this year of 2020, because I have seen more African Americans engage in therapy within the last year to year and a half than ever. And I think we are starting to get it as a community that, it's not just about how smart we are, how many degrees we have, how physically fit we have, that our mental health is just as important as our education, as our success, as our physical health. And like I said, I'm very pleased. And so, I think that it's very important for us as a community to understand that our mental health impacts our physical health. So, for those of us who do struggle with depression and anxiety and other mental health conditions, it can certainly have a negative impact on our physical health. When you're depressed, you're less likely to get up and want to go to the gym. Your motivation is not where it needs to be or where it typically is. And so, most people that struggle in that area are experiencing deterioration in their mental health and physical health, not to mention when our mental health is not up to par, or we are ignoring what's going on with us emotionally or mentally. We also experience deficits in our careers and our ability to manage our businesses for those of us who are businesses. I've seen so many business owners who are in the best time or the prime of business ownership, but they're not dealing with any mental health concerns that they have. And so they're not necessarily walking in their purpose to the extent that they could, because they're not dealing with that emotional mental health component. And typically it's because that's what they've been taught, that, that's not an issue, that's not a big deal. And we won't even go into the whole religion thing, because a lot of African Americans are told that, you pray about it, you go to church, you read your Bible, things like that. And, that stuff is all great. I completely believe in all of that. But seeing a professional is also something that's critical in being able to manage all of those components of your life and being able to achieve balance and just maintaining good mental health, physical health, spirituality, and also just stability in your career. Now, another thing I want to mention, lastly, relationships. When we fail to deal with our mental health, And as a licensed clinical professional counselor, once again, I do well over 100 therapy sessions a month. And, I see so many individuals who have habitually neglected their own mental health, and therefore they have habitually had unhealthy relationships with other people. Now, I'm talking about romantic relationships, but I'm also talking about social relationships, friendships, and also business relationships. When it comes to business, I'm a business owner as well. And, business ownership is so uh, based on relationships. Relationships are a huge part of being a business owner. And so many people fail to deal with their emotional and mental health that they struggle to maintain those professional relationships just as much as they fail to maintain healthy romantic and social relationships.
That's dope. That's dope. Hurd.
Nah, I mean, she's the good doctor here, so I mean, everything she says is accurate. But I'm glad to hear that the rates of people, accessing counseling is increasing. I mean, that's a great sign to see. I hope that those numbers continue to increase, because I mean, we're dealing with a lot of things from historic trauma and racism. And I mean, I think racism is a pandemic. I do believe that.
Absolutely.
I think it's taking taking years off of people's life, just living day to day, trying to cope with all the stress of being Black in America. Hypertension, strokes, I believe all that stuff factors in. So hearing what our council has shared, I certainly believe that, and I'm glad to hear the news about just the rate of increase.
Just to add to what you were saying about taking years from your life, or that is statistically true. If I remember off the top of my head, it's in the book, the average age of Black male maybe 61, 62, and the average age of a white woman, or the average age of a white woman at the time of death is 72.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I know it's like a 10, 11-year disparity. So I think it's like the 61, 62 range for Black men. So that comment about taking years out your life, that's a statistically proven fact, unfortunately, which is why we have to do, what we do and stuff. And that's why, I'll admit, even myself, that's why, I've increased the frequency of contacts with you and Creighton and other individuals, other brothers like that stuff too, because I realized that part of my mental health and moving forward is to establish strong relationships with strong Black men, because if I can't connect to other strong Black men, then where's my mental going to be when I'm trying to lead? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm all over the board or whatever. And it may not actually have to be a discussion where I say, hey, Hurd, man, I'm having a bad day, blah, 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 and stuff. It could be just something in form of a conversation where that one little sentence, that one little nugget can really help, change perspective and stuff. And, you look at Black families back in the day, so Black men used to congregate often outside of the organizational, fraternity and organization perspective and stuff. I mean, it just was not uncommon for Black men just to come together and just fellowship on a regular basis outside of church, outside of a fraternity, outside of an organization. And it seems like that as we try to chase capitalism, seems like we've gotten more and more away from, just coming back together again. So, for myself personally, I think it's more tribal is to try to make those efforts to be in constant communication. They don't have to be the best of friends, but just to be able to say, hey, I got a guy that I can talk to about this idea, whatever, and it's all to the good.
Right. No doubt.
So in a mental health panel discussion, again, it, definitely was a great, 3-hour combination episode where we had some great insight from Tessie Amos, Cecilia Carter, Tyler Roy, Etoya White, and Ms. Carmel Brown with Charlotte as a regular contributor, and Brandy Williams. We talked about so many different issues, and we talked about, the benefits of mental health treatment. We talked about Ahmaud Arbery, because that was unfortunately the event at the moment that had occurred when we did the panel discussion. And, Ahmaud Arbery happened right before Breonna Taylor, and it was what you're seeing today. It was bound to happen, and unfortunately, it had to take these people's souls for us to get to this point. We talked about toxic masculinity, and we also talked about faith and mental health. I thought it was I think out of all the episodes, I loved each one of them that we did. But I think that this one, getting the mental health out there in the forefront and just seeing like what Carmel was saying, that an increase of people seeking mental health, I think that's pretty awesome. As promised, I do have the mental health resources. It will be posted on my website when I get that upgraded or redesigned in the next several weeks. But for those who do happen to go onto the YouTube channel, you're able to see the mental health resources. These are individuals that's in the St. Louis area. Some stay in the Illinois side, some stay in the St. Louis side, but all of them are very multi-talented, diverse individuals. And so I have their websites for those who do have websites. I have their professional phone numbers and also have their professional emails. So if you are looking for mental health services of any kind, whether it's for yourself, whether it's family, for your children, or whomever, or whatever the situation is, please, you don't have to go through this alone, especially during this pandemic. I mean, your brain is, regardless of how good that you're feeling, you got to take care of your mental. You got to self-check your mental. So episode 7, that I did that solo dolo. That was a preview of season 2, and that was called Back to the Basics. And that was actually, I remember coming back from the funeral and doing this actual podcast. But it was just one of those things where, I was off social media for almost 3.5, it might have been almost 4 months. I took myself off of social media right after Breonna Taylor, because I remember saying that if after Ahmaud Arbery, I was not going to talk about this anymore, about police brutality. And it's not about saying, not saying her name or, saying the person's name or not saying the person's name, but at some point in time, we have to get into action. So I had to look at myself, how can I become a catalyst of change? And so I came back with a renewed focus for this particular podcast to do the Back to the Basics. So we just I recapped everything that happened in the first 6 episodes, and then just really establishing where the podcast was going to go directionally, and just trying to find a unique cadre of individuals to be able to express themselves and promote their platforms. We kicked off the second episode of the second season, which was episode 8, was Understanding Social Equity and Legal Affairs with Nicole Nelson. She's a doctoral candidate, and she's also an attorney as well as an executive director for Equity Legal Services. She discussed social equity in the justice system, and we talked about the Centerville sewer dispute. So that was really interesting because of the fact that I'm actually involved on Equity Legal Services as the president. For those who are not familiar, it is let me see if I can say the most without stepping in legal territory, but there's a dispute and stuff where basically is involved with environmental racism, where the city of Centerville had a lot of sewage being dumped down, more likely from the top of the hill, coming, and it's not really proven, but you actually had a lot of sewage and basically almost dumping. The sewer lines have not been updated. It has, and so Equity Legal Services and numerous individuals from the Centerville area are fighting with the city of Centerville and the state and trying to basically just get the quality of life back. Like when it rains, some of their neighborhoods get flooded and right away, and the sewage systems are so poorly maintained and stuff that you can actually drive by and see some of the sewage just sitting in the yard. And even when it's like not raining for 4 or 5 days or the ground is clear, I mean, it's been warm and the ground is dry, that little area where the sewage is at, you can actually see used toilet paper. You can actually see used tampons and other waste just sitting there floating. And it's just it's really unfortunate. And just seeing some of those homes having their very, very significant decay and deterioration, to the point where these people who live there had regular jobs, had a career, raised their families and whatnot and stuff. Their property values have been basically chiseled down to zero, where they can't even sell their homes. So these people and it's been a generational issue. So they have been fighting, and so Equity Legal Services have been moving the ball a little bit further on this stuff. And Hurd, I'm gonna have to probably talk to you offline one day in a week or so about this too, because this might be a little bit up your alley. As well, as far as connected with some of the people that's been working on the team. But, we've had experts from around the country be able to test the water and, been able to work with the state, the affected stakeholders of this particular project. And we're really trying to do as much as we can. So, kudos to Nicole for doing something Totally out the, she was very passionate for what she believed in. She was working at the Illinois Land and Lincoln. She started this up. We're going on to year 4, I believe. Year 4, and we're still going strong. So, but unfortunately, when it does rain, I mean, whether it's, I mean, like tomorrow, you have a lot of rain in the forecast. Unfortunately, some of those neighborhoods may wind up flooding, or you might have sewage backups concerns. So, and also drinking water is a challenge as well too. So, you talk about Flint, Michigan. Well, we have our own quote unquote Flint, Michigan in your backyard in Centerville, Illinois. So, we are always taking water. I know the Urban League does help collect the water as well. So whatever resources that we can help as far as donations, water, things of that nature, please reach out to Nicole Nelson through the Equity website. And it was very powerful though. It was very powerful. Butler, were you on this one? You're on mute, man.
I think I missed that one too.
Okay. Yeah, that was I remember Charlotta was on that one, but I couldn't remember if you was on it. I think he had something going on with your daughter and stuff. But yeah, we did talk about social equity and the justice system. I know Hurd, I know that you do a lot with urban community planning and urban development. I know that you've worked in the East St. Louis communities from the Winstanley area. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe in Washington Park and some parts of East St. Louis. I think this is a little bit something around your wheelhouse as far as your expertise in discussing about environmental racism.
Yeah, I mean, environmental racism is big. I mean, this is a case that I had not heard of, so I'm glad to hear that you are part of this, and I look forward to talking more with you on that. But yeah, environmental justice, injustice, environmental racism, it's a big thing. We put out a report last year, an organization that I work with, along with Washington University, on environmental justice. You'd be surprised the number of neighborhoods that are built around old manufacturing plants. And that's because at that time, nobody knew the impact of factories on neighborhoods, but just the deterioration of those abandoned buildings over time and how they fall apart, and the different kinds of products that were made in buildings, and including lead paint. I mean, lead paint in the north side of the city, older homes, they painted with lead paint. They didn't know what the effects will be on kids and their educational, maturity levels. But yeah, all that stuff has an adverse impact, man. Things we're still dealing with to this day, and things we'll continue to deal with. But how do we remediate, bad soil when we do new construction on homes? A lot of stuff that over in East St. Louis, we have to do remediation. So anytime you do new construction, you're building something, you have to go through a whole bunch of regulatory processes, but and it adds cost to the development, no doubt about it. But it's good to try to get that, that site clean of contaminants, because that stuff is, if you build a new home on contaminated soil, like you say, it gets into the water, it gets into the air, the kids and families breathe when they're in the home. So, that's cost of doing business today. And when you call, when you say that you're rebuilding versus, going out to suburbia, going out to farmland, building new homes, when you build in the core areas of a region, the inner city, the inner ring suburbs, you will have to deal a lot and often with those types of environments.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that too. And actually, I'm glad that you said that because of the fact that in Nicole texted said that the Urban League does collect the water for the Centerville people. So if you want to donate water, you can bring it to the Urban League, and you can say it's on behalf of the citizens of Centerville, and we'll try to get the water routed to them appropriately. So
Okay.
The Urban League will collect it. But it's really interesting that you said that, because we always talk about buying back the block, building up the block, but just that little spiel right there was very, very, very important to note and stuff, because the cost of redeveloping some of these communities is going to well exceed your actual budgeted costs. Because when you do start, excavating, remediating, and things like that, you're going to start seeing a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't really accounted for, or stuff that wasn't really documented in the prior, I guess, the architecture or whatever stuff is associated with that. But the other thing too is to keep in mind is that a lot of those Black communities, as heavily populated Black communities, not just in St. Louis or St. Louis, but throughout the country, they changed a lot of zoning laws and stuff to be able to dump chemicals and to do things intentionally to degrade property values or to mitigate against property values increasing, because they knew that the transfer of wealth, one of the ways to transfer wealth was through household, having a house that would appreciate whatever. So if you had certain systemic issues in place, that can help suppress that from growing, then you are suppressing multiple families, multiple generations, neighborhoods, cities of being able to accumulate wealth. So that idea of buying back the block, we got to get past slogans. I'm getting tired of slogans, but we got to get past slogans and stuff, because when you sit there and say we got to buy the block, 3 words, it's bigger than that. We needed the Black Wall Street. It's a little bit bigger than that. I mean, there's a lot of other things that come into play, and I'm glad that Hurd said something on, in that regards. Butler?
No, I'm just thinking on this, like my grandparents, all my aunts, uncles, they grew up in Centerville. So it's crazy. So I guess I have a question for you. How many residents are affected where they don't have clean drinking water?
So you asking me a question?
Yeah, I'm asking, do you know about how many residents that's affected?
I mean, offhand, I'm not sure, but the area that's affected is, God, please correct, it's maybe 82nd to 86th. It's not too far from Edgemount, though. I've been through the area. I've been through the area a couple of times and stuff, but it's like right around there. And it's and if I know you're from the city and whatnot and stuff, so it's a part of Centerville and stuff where once you kind of get back past the Maribel, it's a little bit further past Maribel, because Maribel has always had flooding, for the longest. But it's the area and stuff where you have a lot of wooded lots. You have a lot of wooded lots and stuff, and it's not there by design. It's because those homes got raised, and either that or it just kind of just deteriorated to the point where it was inhabitable. It's right around the 82nd to 86th area, I believe. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. So I was just curious, like you don't hear about this stuff on the news, really. That's crazy.
No, you don't. I've not heard that. So I look forward to following up with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually real time texting Nicole, the executive director, about it. So Hurd, I'm already giving her, your contact information, as well. And I told her I'll touch base with her tomorrow about our conversation and whatnot and stuff. And hopefully she'll text it back and stuff. But yeah, so actually this was in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. It was actually on the news, and it was actually in the Belleville News Democrat several times. And I believe it actually made it in a newspaper publication out in Boston. I can't remember what it was. And I know because Harvard got involved with it one time. I don't know how long. I can't remember. It was a while ago. I know they was there a while ago and stuff, but I can't remember to the extent of what they did. But I think they were just kind of getting an assessment of how big the problem really is.
It's crazy because they say Centerville is the poorest city per capita in the nation. And I'm not sure, they used to say East St. Louis was like the murder capital of the nation too. So you got crime and poverty right next to each other. And like, I think it's always crazy. It's like, I grew up in this area, and you mean to tell me that this area is like either the murder capital or the poorest in the whole country? That's mind blowing to me.
Well, yeah, because it does go back to, like what Hurd and I was saying earlier about systemic, environmental racism, so we talk about the different types of systemic racism that exists, but we rarely talk about environmental racism. And really, when you think about it, that is the crux of where the majority of our problems are right now. Go back to the conversation Hurd said about the neighborhoods and the communities, the mental toll that you see, from the violence, whether it's East St. Louis or the North Side, whether it's the Ninth Ward in New Orleans or the South Side of Chicago. It's one and the same and stuff. What they did is that they basically funneled a lot of Black families into these particular neighborhoods, and they ran them straight to hell. And not Black people and stuff, but the zone, the way that they zoned it, and everything like that and stuff. It was, you think of the projects, you think about, the true definition of what is the trap, what is the trap, and
Right.
it's just manifesting in your eye, but it's just instead of sitting there being in high rises, it's spread out to the neighborhoods and communities. So I think Centerville has a median household income of 17,000.
Wow.
I think it's either the median, it's either the household income or the household values. But either way, you're not going to be able to accumulate wealth or generate wealth if you're tied into these homes and you can't walk away from these homes. I mean, because like I said, I have family from New Orleans, and people was making comments about Katrina and everything like that and stuff. And I was, and it's like, well, why did they evacuate? Why didn't they leave, or why did they go back? And I'm like, well, how about you get physically displaced from your home and try to go back? And in this particular situation and stuff, how about everything that you worked hard for, or something that you inherited the right way, through hard work, sweat, blood, and tears, and then you seen that being amounted to almost 2,000, being valued at $2,000. Your structure is basically worth $2,000 or 10,000. And I'm speculating, so this is not on the record or factual or whatever and stuff. I don't know the numbers offhand, but these houses values did deteriorate, and it's not just a Centerville problem, like you said. It does extend to Cahokia, East St. Louis, the Charlie, areas like that. I mean, but we don't really understand the root causes of it. So it kind of goes back to these little 3 words: buy the block. Well, what does buying the block really entails? And so that's why we have to have these type of conversations, and that's why we do these podcasts, so we can encourage and inform people and start connecting, resources to be able to change it. So she did tell me that it's all over, but worst parts are 82nd, 80th, Bluff Street, Bellevue, Pyatt Place, and Riverside.
When you say all over, what does that mean? That means
Centerville, the flood in their shoes.
it's been remediated.
I don't know if it's remediated, man. It's a mess. Yeah, it's really a mess how they're doing, how the city is doing everything. Like the way that they dug the ditches, it's not even adequate enough to even have a strong flow of water. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And then you look at some of the sewage systems that they have and stuff, they just look beyond repair. You need a whole new sewage system. But the question is, who's going to foot the bill?
Right. Yeah.
So
that's a major capital investment there, bro.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and again, I know that there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on legally, and I know that I can't disclose and whatnot, and some things I'm not even privy to and stuff. But that story is on.
Okay.
I know Fox 2 News did have a story about it. I know St. Louis Post-Dispatch had a story about it, and I know the BND did. So, like I said, I'll get a hold of Nicole tomorrow because I got to take an exam tonight, certification exam, practice, boo. But I will definitely keep you in the loop as soon as I take this test tomorrow night, because after that, I'm chilling for the next 3 to 4 days.
Gotcha.
Mr. Hurd, we got to have this one. Full picture. We got action shot, Brian Hurd dropping knowledge. Talking about the Winstanley Project. We're going to talk about that real quick, but we did talk about voting because at the time we were heading towards the general election, and we talked about the importance of voting. And I know from Brian's Facebook page, Brian's a very prolific Facebook poster, not so much of the content, but just on the variety of topics that he introduces. And so, I consider Hurd as an influencer, as well as a motivator and leader. And so we talked a lot about voting. And so we talked about gerrymandering. What does gerrymandering look like? The good thing is that Trump did not get another 4 years. So at least we get some kind of form of stability, as far as stability can go, maybe a year from now. But while he continues to do whatever he does, we did talk about the history of Blacks voting. And so, we did our part for the general election. Big ups to Philadelphia for basically sealing the deal on that one. The Blacks in Philadelphia coming out to show up and show out the vote. But the question is, where do we go for the next elections? Because what a lot of us don't understand is that for those for those who are not aligned with Black culture or just equitable solutions, they get strategically positioned through legislative positions and they create gerrymandering, they create legislations and stuff that actually has significant influence, negative influence on the Black community. So, for example, it's one of the research that I was conducting about voting and whatnot noted that all the states that has voter ID laws are red states. I stay a mile and a half across the river from, well, actually, I stay 11 miles from St. Louis in Illinois, but it's amazing how a mile and a half can separate you from your how you exercise your right to vote. So like Butler and I and Carmel, all of us are from Illinois. We didn't have to show our ID, to show, us to show our ID to vote and stuff. If somebody asked me that, I'm like, oh, really? I mean, but I'm used to carrying my ID because because St. Louis is the metropolitan area, but St. Louis abides by Missouri law, which requires an ID. But the thing is that, and I don't know if I said it in this particular podcast or in general, 25% of Blacks does not have a form of identification. So if you're passing a law that's saying that requires you to have voter IDs, having some kind of a state license or whatever to show for validation to vote, you're disenfranchising a significant number of African Americans and Native Americans, because Native Americans is high up on the list as well, from being able to exercise the right to vote, as well as some of the other theatrics that they do, like including what's going on with the stimulus check. Don't let them believe that them passing this 2,000 check is in your best interest. If the people that were voting for the stimulus checks right now in the Republican Senate, they're doing it because of the fact that they know that if they don't support this bill and this bill doesn't get passed, the two people in the runoff are going to lose, and then all of a sudden you completed a blue wave. So we have to understand a little bit more about how the legislative process works for Black people, because we fought for our right to vote and we've already accomplished that. So now we have to figure out what are the next steps after that. How we're going to get more actively engaged in legal matters. When it comes to legislation. Big props to Cori Bush. I've never met the lady, but big ups to her. Bruce Franks that came before her. For people from the grassroots level that they put out their heart and soul to change the narrative and stuff. But it doesn't stop there. We need to have more, on the street. We need to have more advocates. We need to have more PACs that are designed to put economic pressure on some of the senators and the legislators that are drawing up the laws and stuff, so we can start trying to move the needle towards more equitable access. Anybody, y'all can jump in on that one.
No, again, speaking to the choir here, and I know both of you already know and understand, but we got to be more engaged. Voting is good, and what we did in November was phenomenal. But we got Georgia. Georgia's hot right now. We know what the deal is. It's 2 up, and if we don't get both of them, then Mitch McConnell will continue to do what he did today, which is to hold up progress. Hey, it's timely. You doing this review, it's timely. But the other thing is, we gotta keep voting. We gotta keep registering new votes. But then this is what we gotta make the difference. The great Tip O'Neill, former Speaker of the House, back during the Reagan administration, said, "All politics is local." And so, not just about voting for local candidates, but even us, young people, and I tell my students and I tell people that I supervise, I say, if you want to make your mark in planning and development or whatever, I say, you don't have to have a storied career to serve on a board or serve on a commission. They are looking for, in local government, all these different boards and all these different commissions for you to get involved. And that's how you build your capital. And so I tell people all the time, when you're young, you're a recent graduate, if there's an opportunity for you to make some inroads, you may not have 20 years of experience or 25 years of experience, but you can serve. You can serve on boards and commissions. There's planning and zoning commissions. There are human rights commissions. There's so many different commissions that have so many vacancies in all these local governments. And there's a lot of municipalities around here. So I say, find your opportunity. You don't have to run for office. These are opportunities. You just say that you're interested in serving. Submit your resume to the city or the county, And they'll use your experience and your education where you are now if you want to serve. Because right now, most of the people who do serve are probably older people who are veterans or even retired. They have the time. But you can make your mark by serving on these local boards and local commissions, and it builds your capital, builds your credibility up for you to help you in your career and your profession, but also to serve your local community. And that's what we need people to get more involved with.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's funny that you do say that and stuff, because here we are, we're getting up there like a nice barrel-aged scotch, because I ain't saying getting older, maturing like a Glenlivet,
Right.
But the thing is that it kind of recalls of this conversation I had at the State of Black Health Conference I did in Atlanta 3 years ago maybe. And it was 2 years ago. And I remember saying that we got all these talented brothers and sisters from Raleigh, Durham, Atlanta, Virginia Beach, and Charleston area and whatnot. But and we had a lot of talented, fraternities, sororities. We had a lot of educated brothers and sisters and stuff. But the question was, I didn't see nobody from the hood in these meetings, and I said that we need to find a way to provide engagement for those who may not have all the degrees and the qualifications and stuff, to get them more involved and stuff, because experience creates exposure.
Right.
Exposure creates experience. Exposure creates experience. So you don't know what you're capable of doing or how you can influence change unless you are in a position to be able to administer change, and the only way you go through that is through exposure. So, it's definitely something, and Hurd, I know we talked about that a couple of times. We'd definitely love to have you more on the show talking about that more and stuff, to be able to make sure that we're educated and informing individuals, not in St. Louis, but just even across the country, as we really try to push this platform further and making sure that we get more people involved and hold people accountable. Because, you talk about the Jay-Z thing, him going to the NFL, not so much of a statement, but you have to understand is that he's a deterrent in a lot of ways. And so the way that they behaved and spoke and carried on and everything like that, the jokes and comments, they ain't going to slide like the way they used to with Jay-Z there. Now, I don't know if Jay-Z is going to be the champion of change or whatever the case may be and stuff, but it just starts with one. And then the next, you turn around, somebody else comes on board, and then somebody else comes on board. And then all of a sudden that becomes a deterrent to inappropriate behavior, ethics, and action. So,
Right.
So it kind of piggybacks what you're saying, Hurd, is that, you start putting more of us on the zoning commission, make them think twice about doing some of the things that they're going to say, because all of a sudden you have a voice that's relatable to the community. So
Absolutely,
yeah, so definitely something worth keeping in mind. We also discussed urban planning in the Black community. We talked about this over the past half hour about Hurd's expertise in urban planning and strategic planning in that area. And just his level of expertise. He does have his own strategic planning, urban planning consulting firm that provides sustainable solutions. His website and phone contact information is provided. And again, those slides will be readily made available, and the video of this particular podcast will be up within 24 hours. Butler or Carmel, do y'all have anything you want to add for this particular slide before we move to the next one? Butler, you on?
You all covered a lot with that.
Yeah, right on.
No, I don't have anything to add, Dr. Butler, Dr. Duncan, or Terrence Butler.
Okay, cool. Sex Sent Me to the ER, featuring Dr. Danielle Peebles. Dr. Peebles' podcast, and Butler, me and you always talked about this, is one of the most. Okay, cool. Dr. Peebles' podcast is probably one of the most viewed podcasts out of all of them that we had.
Yeah, my mind is still blown by when she was reading, just by touching you here, touching you there. She was able to read actual illnesses that happened with people. So that was amazing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to I was getting shout outs for the fraternity, sororities and stuff. So Brian is enough. I think he mentioned it. Butler's a Kappa. Dr. Peebles is an SG Row. So shout out to the SG Rows out there. She's the owner of Pro Family Health Chiropractic. I actually got my adjustment. I had my 3 adjustments. And I was already able to see and stuff, so I didn't need any extra vision or anything like that. But she did do this thing with my sinuses, because I remember I was talking to her, and then all of a sudden I started hacking and stuff, and I was like, and I'm not a cougher. So, I was like, all of a sudden you start coughing all of a sudden. I'm like, damn, do I got corona or something? She's like, oh yeah, just clear your sinuses out. And I was like, dang. So, but it was she was able to tell if my hips, she said something about my hips was out of, alignment or something like that. She put a little staple gun to the back of my neck and everything. And but I'm supposed to go back sometime in January. But the way that she, like I told Butler, the way that she did the show was literally the same way that she treated me as a patient. She was very warm. She was
Maybe we get
engaging.
one of your adjustments on the podcast.
You know what? I might have to and stuff. I might have to wear me some Bugle Boy jeans or something like that day.
I'm definitely gonna have to contact her.
Yeah, Dr. Peoples is dope. So she's on Del Mar. So she's it's right off of Del Mar, and it's a hop, skip, and jump, maybe 20 minutes from from Illinois. And she's had her business for, if I remember off the top of my head, for 13 years. And she wrote a book, Sex Sent Me to the ER. It's available on Amazon, and or Sex Sent Me to the chiropractor. I got the slide wrong, but Sex Sent Me to the chiropractor. But it's on Amazon, and she provides engagement of holistic treatment of Blacks and healing through alternative therapy, which is chiropractic methods. And she also treats more than just auto accidents. She also treats sports related injuries and just any just general health and wellness. So she'll tell you different things and stuff to kind of assist you, whether from orthotics, from your mattress to your pillow. She'll give you recommendations, and just depending on what you're really trying to treat. I know that my feet are not that jacked up, but she said that she can help you find the right custom orthotic for your shoes and stuff, for those who might have a lot of problems with their arch or whatever and stuff. So definitely check her out. She's really dope.
Super awesome.
Yep, Dr. Peebles, she's a good person. I met her at a workshop, and we just, connected, and we just stayed in contact ever since and stuff. So, she also teaches, and so I was giving her a lot of pointers and stuff about how to convert to online, because she was teaching in person, and pandemic hit, and so we just kind of kept up our conversations from there. So good person all around. Very nice.
Yeah, I might hit up Dr. Peoples myself.
Man, please do.
My feet, knees, back issues sometimes, most definitely.
Yeah, I have a lot of low back issues. I know I've been in a couple of car accidents, so I know sometimes my back gets a little tight. But I think a lot of it is like I told her, I just need to start stretching more before I start working out. Carmel, don't get on me on that. But yeah, that's usually where most of my problems are.
No judgment here, Dr. Duncan.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll be laying in the bed and I wake up and say, all right, time to hit it. And then I'll be cool. And then next, some days I'll be like having a heating pad on my back and stuff, man, like Al Bundy or something like that. So.
Great.
The next slide is Pathway to Generational Wealth starts with financial literacy with Marcus Creighton. Marcus Creighton is an alpha as well. He used to be I think he's the current past president. And I know that he's president of both the undergraduate and the graduate chapters of Alpha Phi Alpha in the St. Louis area. He's the vice president of Wealth Protection Advisors. He also owns a car lot. I hope I represented that correctly, but he's the owner president of Supreme Power Sports LLC. And we covered a lot of ground, from the different types of life insurance, how to build and transfer Black wealth, the benefits of a financial advisor's free versus fee, credit scores, and your rights, knowing your rights when it comes to credit cards. He also just talked about his experience of giving back to the community through community engagement. So he has spoken to, I think he said over 100, I think he'd done 100 appearances in HBCUs and high schools throughout the country, providing a lot of financial literacy advice, strategies, and recommendations for the Black youth. So he's another influencer, dynamic individual, funny dude, real funny dude. Definitely glad to have him on the show. He was very forthright and just straight to the point. And, I would say that, again, a learning lesson that I took from this particular podcast episode was that I was going to fire my financial advisor. I've actually contemplated firing my financial advisor about 15 times. And then after the podcast, I stopped thinking about firing them because I just, I didn't want them to take my money out, but, and, I thought and I have a very strong understanding of the market and how to invest and whatnot and stuff. But like he said, he does this full time. Like Butler does insurance full time. Mr. Creighton does this full time as well. And, so he definitely understands market risk and tolerances and things like that. So, you know, financial advisors are very much recommended. So if you are trying to get your finances together and stuff, find an expert. I mean, it's good to have these tutorials, and everybody wants to be a financial coach and expert that you see on Facebook and IG and whatnot. And I'm not knocking them in no shade or anything like that and stuff, but you want to kind of look at the methodology of how they're going about doing it. Are they going from a evidence-based view, or are they just going for personal experience? Like, all right, this is what I did, so it's always best to try to get advice from those who've actually been there, done that, so they can help guide you to minimize the mistakes that you would make from investing on your own. Butler, so out of that particular podcast, I know we talked about that at length afterwards. What stood out most about that one for you?
I think it was well, for me, I got nuggets here and there, but basically what I remember is just how much I know why people need financial literacy. I think we know too little about like investing, too little about all types of insurance. And we don't, as a people, we don't plan for tomorrow. We're always worried about how am I going to eat. So I think this is a conversation like with all of them that our people really need to, because we're so far behind as far as generational wealth goes. This is such a necessity for our people to play catch up. We gotta really be obsessed with passing on wealth from generation to generation, or we're gonna die out just because we won't have enough economic power to keep up. And when we talk about life insurance is one of the cheapest ways to kind of accelerate the process and to be sure that money gets passed on, because we have to stop starting from scratch. Every generation can't keep starting back from zero, having a hustle. That gets exhausting. So that's a conversation that definitely needs to keep on going.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add to that briefly and stuff, because my financial strategy is always not about myself; it's about my children. And so I want to, and I tell both my kids my goal, and the thing is, I don't expect my son, because I handled investments for my son uh, through a brokerage firm, and I just kind of manage his investments just in a mutual fund account, and for both of my boys, and I keep telling them over and over again why I'm doing this, because I would love to be here on this planet for a very long time, but if I'm not, at the very least, they know this is what's going on, and this is why I did it. And if I do want to be blessed to live long enough, not only do they hear this over and over again, they know that it's a priority for them to address when they become adults. And so, like you said, it definitely takes away from that starting from zero, because I started from zero. You started from zero. Carmel, I don't know if you started from zero, but let's make an assumption. She started from
I
zero.
definitely started from zero, guys.
Okay, so all three of us started from zero. So the thing is that if we don't learn any lessons or have any financial literacy or understanding of financial, terminology and how markets work or how to invest and save, when it's time for us to go, our kids can start all over from zero. So just imagine you're repeating that loop over and over again generationally. Carmel?
No, I absolutely agree. And, it's our responsibility to teach our children what was not taught to us. And, they say that you can't give or provide what you weren't given. And that is absolutely not true in most cases. And so, we have taken it upon ourselves to do the research, do our homework, and to be responsible for making sure that we're passing that on. So, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And the thing is too and stuff, and for those who are watching this podcast, I don't want you to feel intimidated by the number of people that we've had on the show or their background and things like that. You have to remember that we're bringing these people on board and stuff because, first of all, they look just like us. We all look alike. We're all the same. We're all African Americans. We all come from different backgrounds and stuff, but these are their individual walks in life. And so I think it's very important to say, like what and Brian had to get off the podcast, but what he said was really true and stuff, is that we have to be able to find a way to pass this information down. It's like it's incumbent on, it's our responsibility. And it's like he said in when he did the first podcast, it's like a barbershop. And so we're trying to have this conversation with you and saying, okay, this is how, this is what this person did, but he or she's going to talk about how they got there and help to provide resources for you to get to that point, or at least be able to break down some of the more fundamental terms. If you have an intermediate to an advanced level of knowledge on these topics, that is great. But the thing is that we have that ability because of technology and access to be able to try to leverage ourselves generationally. So I think now is the time to do it. Again, I think this is a really unique, good time, despite all the bad that's been going on and all the challenges going on. But I think this is a good time for Black America, because I think that this is one of the few times that I could ever recall that we have been sustainable in having a singular focus to start changing the narrative throughout the country and throughout the world.
Yeah, I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. There are a lot of people, like I said, just seeking out knowledge, trying to get better with their finances, trying to improve their credit, trying to purchase assets. So I think the more that information has been disseminated out there, I think that there is like a wave, a move of people trying to secure their finances, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, just to be able to use this platform in this fashion. I mean, and the information provided. I mean, I try to do as much research as possible before these guests get on the show. But I mean, I've actually listened to a couple of these podcasts again recently, and just the amount of information provided. I know it could be a little bit long-winded at time, but that's okay, because some answers can't be resolved in 15 minutes. And so just to have the ongoing conversation, not really so much at a high academic level, but just a regular conversation that you would have with just people in the room. I mean, I think this is really special. So, so if you are interested in learning more and stuff, please don't be afraid to reach out to us. Episode 12, Queen Carmel Brown, and she's the queen because of her awesome chair. We brought her on the show for the third time to talk about her book, Your Exhilarating Life, Creating Prosperity in Family and Career. And I actually have a copy of that book. And like I told her, I'm 45 pages in, but I'm going to pick it up and stuff because she said something in there. And I just like, you know what, damn it, let me go and pick up my damn laptop and start writing this book again. So I did knock out 10 more pages, Carmel. So I'm up to 224 pages. And it'll probably be a 300-page monster by the time it's all said and done. But
wow, awesome, awesome.
A lot of work.
Yes, I love it.
It's a lot of research, so definitely looking forward to y'all checking that out. But her book is, really good, and I actually replayed that a couple of times, some parts over, because we did talk about some of the axioms. And
incoming call from Rodney.
So we actually had some, we discussed some of the axioms and foundations that was in her book, and she kind of went into great detail about how she came about to those particular points. We talked about managing grief and coping strategies because we were coming around the bend around the holiday time, so people lost their family and friends to COVID. And we talked about telehealth myths and facts. There's a lot of people who feel like that they can't do telehealth because of, confidentiality and things of that nature. And she, helped try to dispel some of those myths. She talked about her business is growing as a counselor, and that even though you may not be able to speak with her directly, depending on her schedule, because she is booked up, she does have other associates that she worked with as well that share the same philosophy towards treatment. And she also talked about her other business venture real briefly, but we'll talk about that later in the future, about the nutrition, about how nutrition definitely helps, how nutrition definitely affects your mental health. And so, like eating the right foods and making sure that you're cutting down on sugars and sodium and things of that nature will help help your heart health, as well as your sleep, and as well as your body and mind. Butler, what stood out before we get to Carmel? What stood out for you on this particular podcast?
I think it was more or less. We got to talking about nutrition at the end. We kind of promised to kind of revisit it on another podcast because that can go for a minute. But I do remember just being just amazed at how poor nutrition always equates to poor health, and people don't realize how poisonous these processed foods and things are, and how they're literally poison themselves daily, and how you just have to be intentional about eating more fruits and vegetables and whatnot.
Yep. Carmel.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally enjoyed our episode together, and you're absolutely right. Our nutrition and fitness has such a impact on our emotional and well-being and mental health, and there's so much research that backs up this fact that exercise and nutrition and supplements can have just as much of a positive impact on the way we feel and our ability to manage symptoms of mental health as psychotropic medication, even for some people, not everyone, but some people. And, I think that it's very important for individuals who have never maybe been on psychotropic medication, or maybe who are trying to avoid having to be on
Oh, you're cutting off a little bit, Carmel.
psychotropic medication, to their healthcare providers and also their therapists about other alternatives to managing symptoms.
Absolutely. And for those who are interested about her services and what she offers, and in the book itself, you can go to carmelbrowncounseling.com, and her phone number is provided as well in the slides. Her book, Your Exhilarating Life, Creating Prosperity in Family and Career, is on Amazon and other book delivery platforms. So definitely check her out. Definitely a good read, what I've read so far. And I do intend to finish wrapping this book up probably over the weekend, because after I take this silly exam, I'm going to just kind of detox the brain a little bit and stuff, and just have some light reading or whatever and stuff, but no studying, no school, no teaching, nothing. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's lots of nuggets in there for people from different populations. One population that I really targeted in that particular book was individuals who are business owners or entrepreneurs such as ourselves that may be dealing with some mental health or emotional health circumstances that need to be addressed, and the ability to maintain healthy relationships and connections personally and business wise. So I really did target that particular population in that book. And, of course, I have another book titled Nurture Your Body, Preventing Obesity. And that is a book that's mostly nutrition based. So I have two books. They're both on Amazon.com and also BarnesandNoble.com. So it depends on whether or not you are trying to do some research on foods and supplements that are helpful for maintaining mental and physical health and fighting disease, or if you're interested in just overall strategies for improving your overall sense of well-being and mental health and relationships and just succeeding at life in general. And that would be my book on my book called Your Exhilarating Life.
Great. And also, she's, like I said, third time on, and look for her to be a regular contributor as well as Hurd and Charlotte as well. So anytime you guys want to come on the show and stuff, you're more than welcome to do so. Definitely love your energy on there. The episode 13, the value of networking and planning, with Henrik Lynn. Mr. Lynn is a retired Army. He was retired from the Army. He's an entrepreneur, public speaker, and a real estate agent. And we talked about the importance of networking. We talked about some of the myths and the facts for Blacks in networking. And we talked about how organizing and planning often leads to success. His contact information is provided on the actual slide itself. I met Kenrick through a networking event, and really solid brother and stuff. He's, one thing I like about Kenrick is he has one speed, and that's calm. You know, that he's always seemed like he's in control, but a very quiet, calm control, very knowledgeable, and he sees the bigger picture. So he has his consulting company, Local Noon, and he provided a lot of good information from his experience in the Army, what led him to to get into these other ventures, and it's just motivated because of the fact that he wanted to do something more with for himself than what he already had going on. And even though he did accomplish a lot by serving in the Army and whatnot and stuff, he didn't want to go back to he didn't want to go to a cubicle or 9 to 5. And that's what motivated him. What also stood out for me in this podcast episode was he talked about the roots of entrepreneurship, and about how it's entrepreneurs are really designed to tackle solutions and provide innovative solutions. And if you're saying that I'm going to entrepreneurship because of the money and things like that, you're not going for it for the right reasons, and you're more likely going to have challenges or fail because it's not about the money. As an entrepreneur, you could probably bring in $1,000 of annual income, on the side on top of everything else you're doing, and you can still provide a lot of fulfillment for others. So it was really good to have a brother like him on the show and provide the expertise that he was able to do. Butler.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me that networking is actually you have to develop a skill in networking. It's just not going out saying hi and passing out business cards. You have to.
Absolutely.
It teaches you how to communicate more effectively, especially being an entrepreneur, because your communication skills depend on your paycheck sometimes. And like I said, networking is very important because you never know who you're gonna meet and who they can introduce you to. I remember saying I actually think I went to a conference where George Frazier was. I think he was a moderator, and he had a whole spiel on having a introduction, like memorize your introduction when you're speaking to people that you don't know in a business setting, and different things to say and how to get people to remember you and things like that. So it's definitely a skill all entrepreneurs need to begin to master and kind of incorporate, because you can have referrals that can just keep coming in, and that's always the best business to me, is when you get calls out the blue from people. It's a lot easier way to make money.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is that you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You got to step out your comfort zone. The majority of people that you're going to network and interact with that does have access to the money that you're trying to secure are not going to look like you. I mean, that's a strong probability. So if you're looking to find a bunch of people to look like you for the purpose of generating business and whatnot and stuff, I mean, it can happen, but there's so many different challenges, at least on a grassroots level. I mean, the more structured, organized, organizations, Black organizations, that's a whole different conversation in itself. But for most of the people that consider networking, you know, one of the more inherent fears of networking is the fact that they may be one or a very minute number of individuals of color that are at these large events or at these, these happy hours networking events. But you actually have to really understand that the color of your skin actually is a marketing tool in itself, because of the fact that there's a natural curiosity of what are you doing here, and if you're able to, like you said, Butler, having the the sales pitch or the business intro, stuff like that, I mean, you're going to draw a crowd. If you're going to draw a crowd, you might as well find ways to utilize it to your best of your ability.
Absolutely.
So, Carmel, what do you think about networking is from your perspective? I know you've been doing this for a while, and I know you talked about business coaching. I know you've worked with several entrepreneurs, and I know you're working on a project now, but what do you think are some of the challenges in networking and planning in itself?
I think networking and planning is critical to success. And, a lot of people don't realize that their inability to network or their lack of motivation to network hinders or impedes their ability to succeed with their businesses. And, the bottom line is this: when we network in certain groups of people, we find that we don't see a lot of people that look like us, like you mentioned earlier, and sometimes that's discouraging. But the bottom line is this: it still has to go forth. We still have to network. We still have to connect with other people. And as we continue to network and connect with other people, we find that there are more people that are like us, that we can connect with, that we can relate to, whether they're the same race as us or not, that than we actually thought from the beginning. So I think that it's critical, and once again, it's something that we need in order to succeed, and not just business, but other areas of our life. And here's the thing: when it comes to business, relationships, and the ability to acquire and or achieve and maintain healthy relationships, it's important. And relationships are not just important for our personal lives, they're also important for our professional lives, and that's simply what networking is. It's developing healthy relationships.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I talked about some great stories about networking. Don't eat all the food. Don't be the one to don't take any food home, and don't eat
Mm-hmm.
up all the food, because don't be that
Mm-hmm.
that guy or that gal and stuff. But yeah, now you have to, one of the things, every time that I have a negative event that happens to me,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's, from an academic standpoint, or personal standpoint, or a business standpoint, a lot of it is because I didn't follow through with my plan.
Mm-hmm.
And but then when I realized, and it's not even, you don't even have to crunch numbers to say and stuff, but every time I have a misstep, or I have to feel like I'm rushing to adjust or self-correct, it's because I didn't follow a plan, or I didn't plan for it. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I realized, like, some of the stuff that I was able to obtain over the years, from a financial standpoint and acquisition standpoint, it all came from through planning. So just to be able to have a plan in place, and you're able to stick to the script, day in and day out, that is some of the most successful traits that you're going to find if you study millionaires or other successful people. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, a lot of those people don't get to where they are without having a plan. And again, you might have somebody that got extremely fortunate, successful, had the right chips fall, where they needed to be, and lightning struck that particular area and stuff. But that's an anomaly. But the majority of people, you have to have a plan. If you are a business owner, you need to have a business plan. Even if you don't have a written plan, you better be able to articulate your plan from the rooter to the tutor, because of the fact that when you are trying to, you definitely need a business plan, you go to a bank. But if you cannot articulate the vision and the mission of what your business is trying to do, you're more likely going to fail. If you don't know how to plan to secure assets and resources for your business, or not understanding how to go, which involves networking, to find where to get to those resources, you're more likely not going to grow, or your business will fail. And this is not just throwing shade or water on people's dreams. I mean, these are proven facts. So if you are a business person, and Butler, I know you mentioned that you're starting to get a lot of calls from people trying to get insurance and whatnot. If you are a business person, it takes more than a piece of paper from the Secretary of State to recognize you that as a business. You are a business person without actually owning a business. If you have a business like mentality towards your finances, toward your lifestyle and your connections and resources and stuff, chances are you will see more accomplishments and more things kind of break your way than not, because you are methodical and you're planning and you are addressing things in a very systematic way. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Planning and networking, they're all interrelated. And sometimes you may plan to go networking to just not even worry about how many businesses or clients you can secure. It's just getting your name out there. And that's just as more valuable than spending time doing stuff like doing Facebook Live, or putting a post where it goes to an echo chamber where you're seeing the same 50 to 100 people seeing it. You need to expand past your friend list, to be able to meet other individuals that can help promote and lift your brand further.
Absolutely. And you know what they say, Dr. Duncan: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our last slide, our guest slide, is Leslie Davis, and she's another counselor. Carmel, do you know Leslie personally?
I I I do not know her personally, but I have connected with her on social media.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool. Well, Leslie is a licensed clinical professional counselor as well, and she's also a doctoral candidate at Regent University. She's an executive director of Hearts and Faith, which is a grassroots nonprofit organization. We talked about what was a nonprofit and what is a grassroots nonprofit. She talked about some of the programs that was available for not only the single mothers, but the evolution from single mothers to involving single fathers, and then also working with violence prevention programs for teenagers, as well as working with Madison and St. Clair County and some of the other projects. She does not, she talked about how proud she is to not only be able to grow a board, but to be able to do this without grants. So she is being able to provide sustainable solutions just only through solicitation of donations. And so her contact information is available. I've known her since she was we were both kids, and I know her and her mom, and she is like a little sister to me and stuff. I'm very proud of her, and it's nice to see her grow. And she also talked about having a child with special needs. I thought that was very nice of her to be able to share the experience about her son, who has his own YouTube channel and 10,000 followers, over 10,000 followers, and he has a medical condition which requires a lot of treatment and interventions, as well as visits to the hospital and a doctor and stuff. And I don't want to go into the medical condition because of HIPAA, obviously. But, she talked about that particular situation, and just raising a young man in that, with that particular medical concern, and just still being able to provide him, the quote unquote normalcy that most other kids take for granted and stuff. So a very dynamic woman. You will definitely be hearing a lot from her, maybe not so much on the show at times and stuff, but just out in the community and stuff, because she is very driven to do more. So couldn't be any prouder of somebody like that. So Butler, were you on that particular podcast?
No, I had to miss that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember that was. So it was just me and her and stuff. So
Right.
yeah. So yep. So we've had just in summary stuff. I mean, I know this is a very long podcast, but this is a very long podcast because we really wanted to take the time to really highlight and thank those who participated in the show. That we have been running since May of this year, March of this year. I'm sorry, March of this year, with some breaks in between, and just. I mean, again, man, like we said before we got on camera, bro, 15 episodes. This is our 15th episode. We've probably ran over, 1,000 hours of podcast audio and, and just video on YouTube and stuff. I mean, it's, if anything else doesn't come out of this, if another show never airs and stuff, I mean, this is something I'm very, very proud of, probably more than any project that I ever worked on. Just be able to try to pull all these people together and stuff, and then them being gracious of their time to share their insight and expertise with the audience.
Yeah, 15 is huge, man. I'm just looking forward to the expansion, to us getting better, having even more guests in the future, and just really being an outlet that people go to for information. I think once we begin to start hearing stories on how, I heard some information on your podcast, it just changed my perspective on this, and I was able to do that. Then we really start seeing the fruits of the labor and what we were all just trying to do collectively. Us and the guests. We're just trying to bring knowledge to people, and just try to make their lives better in some way, shape, or form. So I'm glad to be part of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's like I said, we started off, in off of 14th and Market. Yeah, off of 14th or 12th and Market, and we talked about, we did the work with Black Money STL, and community service is something that I never thought that would give me so much personal satisfaction and joy and stuff, to be able to dedicate my time in a way that I have, not only for Black Money, but just even on this podcast. And, we have some good laughs on here, and, we've, just really just so much information, so much knowledge. I'm smarter for this, to be able to get the information that I have. And like I said, I've been able to use a lot, like I told you, like a person shared about a coping strategy I did, for Christmas Eve, and just, some other personal reflections and stuff. I mean, it's very cathartic to be able to do something like that. So, which leads us to the last slide, like what's next in 21. So at 21, the book's going to come out, and I hope to get this done probably around the same time that the podcast comes back on air. So I'm not going to come back. My personal goal is to not do another podcast episode till at least I got the book in editing mode. So I'm on the next to the last chapter, and then I got the other chapters, which is more of a summary. So it's probably about another 50 to 60 pages worth of information being dropped, but oh wow. But by the end of the day, the book will come out, and and it'll help draw the connection between the podcast and the book. The second thing that we had figured will be great for the podcast in 21 is to gain more experts and insights from Blacks to inform and educate the Black community. It's so very vital. So, like I said, Carmel, she's been a great, friend of the show. And I know she said, that she'll be willing to be on the show more, which will be awesome. It will not only expand the audience, but also, it can actually, do some more creative things for the podcast as far as like connecting people live. We love to have more of a live audience, to participate through the Zoom calls while we're doing a simulcast, and maybe even try to get some more workshops that might be related from it. And those will be paid. You will have to pay for those. But whenever we get to that point, we hope to have the related content. And then also, one of the third key points for next year is to increase engagement in content and activities promoting social change. So, like Butler said, hey, we can make this a TV show. So hell, while we're not doing the actual podcast recording, we can do a lot more live on locations to probably mix it up, maybe like, I don't know, maybe a little mini documentary or something like that. And, just to be able to sit down with people like Carmel and D'Anthony and Hurd and Creighton and Tyler and Etoya and Tessie, or even just people that haven't even been on the show yet, people that we don't even know, and just be able to, get them on board to help, engage in social change, or even have some of these stakeholders. It's, at some point in time, we're going to have to shift away from just, pulling exclusively Black people. I mean, we need to expand into understanding how to get, white stakeholders involved, even if, a contrarian view. We have not had a heated discussion on a podcast yet, and
Right.
and you have to have some kind of, because from, clarity comes from chaos. So if we have a divergent view,
That is coming.
yes, it is coming, and to have a divergent view, on the show, or somebody that may not agree, or somebody that doesn't understand where we're coming from, we have to not be afraid to do that, because it is that kind of conversation that can really help, spark change. It could be a key stakeholder, somebody that's sitting on the bank, or somebody could come from a bank and they start throwing softball responses. And then, it could be a situation where we challenge that individual, not being a jerk about it, but, just say, okay, well, if this is your plan, then tell us how you're going to go about doing it, and how can people get in contact with you, start holding, get out, us to not be comfortable, is definitely a goal for everyone.
And there are so many social justice and social change issues that I think we still have to cover moving forward. And not just as African Americans, but just as Americans in general. And I think moving forward, we're going to be kind of forced to face some of those issues. And, like, for example, I think my position on, let's just say, for example, Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of controversy surrounding Black Lives Matter. And, and I think that people on one side or the other don't necessarily understand the other side's point of view or perspective. The people that are anti-Black Lives Matter, they're this all lives matter, and they don't understand that when you're saying all lives matter, that means you're saying Black Lives Matter. And so they don't understand that, historically Black lives haven't mattered, so you can't say all lives matter. So, there are so many things that, we have to address so that we can all get on board as Americans, not just as Black people, like you said. And it's going to be some very difficult topics and conversations that are going to have to happen moving forward. And not just that, and that's addressing the more so the Caucasian community. Now, addressing the Black community, as you've probably noticed, we've been very quiet over the last month or two since the election. We were very vocal and loud and earlier in the year in 2020 when things were going on. And, we only speak out and speak up when there's a crisis going on. But when there's no crisis, we're silent. And that's not okay. What are we doing in between crises? How are we moving forward? How are we building? How are we connecting and networking, moving forward and moving up, in between crises? We cannot just be vocal whenever there's one. And that is something that has to be addressed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's so funny that you said that, because the podcast was intended to try to build that part of the narrative, because, if we get too pigeonholed on these topics such as criminal justice, Black Lives Matter, police brutality, we're just going to just keep kicking the same can down the road. Those issues definitely need to be addressed and stuff, but, just even through the expansion of some of these conversations on some of the slides, including environmental justice and environmental racism, there was a lot of information that we just imparted, that's not really being talked about. We talked about the Centerville case. We talked about, zoning laws and, being on the zoning commissions. Hurd just dropped something else I didn't even know. I didn't know I could be on the zoning commission, and I don't really have an interest in doing it, but, maybe I would do something like that, because to advance that goal, or maybe to encourage somebody to do that. But yeah, you're right. It is. And it's funny that you did say that and stuff, because, we continue to get suckered in by the national media narrative. And it's really fascinating that, it was Black this, Black that, Black this, Black that, all the way up until November the 3rd, whenever they
Yep.
And then you had a couple of high-fiving and chest bumps and stuff, with Kamala being the, vice president elect and whatnot and stuff. But then all of a sudden, the protest stopped. The protest stopped, the voices stopped. And, this is something that I had said privately, and I'll just say it on the podcast just because and stuff. It's like, when the marching stops, what's next? What are the next things and stuff? Okay, we're creating a Black business. What's the goal? What's the objective? How is creating a Black business going to further Black causes?
Yeah,
as you, and to be honest, all three of us, Carmel, I know you have a partnership with your husband and stuff, but all three of us were solo entrepreneurs. We don't have a partnership. We have not done anything to help avert, this is the first step, but we have not done something on a larger scale to get people involved, which was why I had reached out to you, Carmel, about the scholarship, trying to get a scholarship foundation. Like, I donated money on Christmas Eve to Harris Stowe as my public commitment that I made months ago. I didn't do it for applause or anything like that and stuff, but I spoke on it a lot more to try to encourage more Black folks to donate to Harris Stowe or other HBCUs for scholarships, because they do need scholarship money. We shouldn't be relying just on Amazon, and if Donald Trump can rack up $2 million and stuff for his, Stop the Steal or whatever the hell it's called, campaign and stuff, why can't we raise that type of funds and stuff to start really, improving our initiatives? Or why can't we start engaging some of these key, white stakeholders and get them on board? They may not be aligned with what we're talking about on this program, but at the very least that they can have this conversation, because the reality is and stuff, we are the minority. There's only 13% of us. We're the number 3 race in the country, behind Hispanics. And the reality is and stuff is that there's a whole world to conquer, and there's a lot of, and meaning that as far as business opportunities and things of that nature. And we're still trying to figure out how to improve East St. Louis, Chicago, whatever and stuff. But while we're sitting here trying to, use think tank to solve some of these solutions, which needs to be accomplished, we need to start figuring out how to start building Black-owned global brands, where we're employing, where we're sitting at the head of the table, and that we're bringing in millions and billions of dollars of revenue consistently, not just a Sean John, not a Oprah, not a Jay-Z, not a Beyonce, but can a Terrence Butler run a technology company, that provides cybersecurity systems and stuff, and he winds up being highly sought after, through the world. Carmel, you may have started up a supply chain logistics and stuff where you become a major diversity supplier for Amazon or Sears or Target or something like that. These are the things that we need to start, elevating ourselves. This is a great time for us to really start changing the narrative, because this is the part where we're most engaged. But, it's been very quiet, and, COVID is kicking our ass, and, for the Black community and stuff. And we just gotta, we have to all look together collectively in 21, and we have to stop the fighting, and we got to stop the killing, and we got to stop the hating and ghosting people on the phone and not answering phone calls and answering text messages. And we got to stop not being people's friends because we didn't like what somebody said and stuff. And, because we want ready to walk away from each other so fast, but we put up so much for the white man.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to understand and stuff. And if we're not going to go back to that Marvin Gaye, what's going on and what's happening, brother, what's happening, sister, queen, this and that, if we're not matching the action with the words and stuff, then we're just going to keep kicking that can down the road.
Yep.
And that was being very...
Absolutely. And one thing that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because I was about to say something really bogus, so I'm gonna keep it to myself. Go ahead.
No, one thing I always say is that Black Lives Matter started in 1619 when the transatlantic slave trade started. And, people that are offended by this movement, they think that it's some kind of gang or some type of aggressive or violent terrorist group. It's not that at all. This is something that we've been saying for over 400 years. And what people that oppose this movement don't understand is that Black Lives Matter has been more than 401 years to be exact, from 1619 to 2020, it's something that we cannot forget about in between crises. And like I said, we have to consistently work together to bring about change, to network, and just to bring about awareness. And we can't wait until February, Black History Month, or to Martin Luther King Day, that January 20th in January. This has to be 12 months out of the year, 365 days out of the year. And this is why I don't get so involved with, these marches and these protests and riots and that, because, I want to see African Americans work together consistently throughout the year. I don't want to be a part of, this is something violent and aggressive, and this is what we're dealing with now. There's a crisis going on, and so now we're active. We need to be active 365 days a year.
I agree 1,000%. And I think that we have a responsibility for those who have been able to be blessed enough to make the gains that we had in life. I think that we have a personal obligation to find a way to give back to the community, not with our pocketbook, with our thoughts and our expressions and our actions, and just even from our direct leadership. And so, we're not, I'm not for everybody. Some people like it, some people don't. That's the person.
Yep.
Some people like you, Carmel, some people don't. That's up to them. We're not nobody's for everybody, period.
That's right.
And but
Absolutely.
But by the end of the day,
you can't trust people that everybody like.
What you say, bro?
I said it's hard to trust people that everybody like.
Right. But by the end of the day, it's
You know what? Aristotle. I'm sorry, Dr. Duncan, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Carmel. No, because I've been running my mouth a lot. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I quoted that in my book. I don't know if you saw that, Dr. Duncan, that I quoted Aristotle.
Mm-hmm.
He said, a friend to all is a friend to none.
Yep, you sure did say that on there. Yeah.
So, you know, if everybody likes you, you're more than likely not doing something right.
Yeah,
Because when you're standing for something, people are going to oppose that. And not that you are intending for people to oppose you, or your goal is to be the adversary, or to somehow gain people that are against you. But, you know, when you stand for what's right, you stand for justice, there are going to be people that are opposed, and that's okay.
No, that's 100% accurate and stuff. I mean, it's definitely something that we have to. Okay, you know, that's definitely something that that we have to continue to do. In 21 and beyond stuff. So I mean, it goes be even during COVID or whatnot, we just have a responsibility to try to do more and educate and inform each other. And it doesn't matter. It's like I said, I don't care if it's 5 people listening or 5,000 or 50,000 people that watches this show or whatever the case may be and stuff. But at least we're on the record speaking the facts, and we try to keep it as honest and we try to keep it as factually based as possible. And we try to remove bias and prejudices and and stereotypes and stuff like that. But by the end of the day, stuff in 21 with Mahogany Thoughts and then some of the other projects that I know that you're working on, Carmel, I know Butler, I know you have your goals and visions, and myself as well and stuff. I pray that we're able to continue to find alignment and be able to influence change in the way that our ancestors did before us.
I'm definitely excited for the future. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. And, and I'm glad that you brought up whether. Certainly.
Carmel, you're cutting out. Your bandwidth is getting low.
And I'm so glad that you made the point about whether there's 5 people or, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that, I'm very happy that you made the point about no matter the number of listeners or followers that you have, because, as a therapist, I'll tell you this, Dr. Duncan, I have had people message me from social media that's never commented, liked, or that I even knew paid attention to what I posted on my social media pages, and have said things like, I've been watching you. I mean, I've had people that said, I've been watching you for over 2 years, and basically I need your help. And I like what you stand for. There's been times when I've listened to your videos and I felt like you were talking directly to me, because people are listening and watching and learning and growing, whether we see it or not, whether we know it or not.
Absolutely. On that note, I know Butler, I know you said that your juice is running low on the phone and stuff. I want to make sure you get your final words. Butler, you have any last words before we sign off?
I really kind of already gave them. I'm just looking forward to expansion, looking forward to more collaboration with my people. I think 2021 is limitless. It's going to be as progressive and as dope as we make it. So, like I said, I'm just excited for the journey, and I'm ready just to be more creative, think more outside the box with these podcasts, as we get more ideas and things like that. So I think we've definitely dug a nice foundation. Now just ready to put some bricks upon top of the foundation.
I like that analogy. Carmel, regular contributor, friend of the show. You got any last words? Carmel?
I think Queen B went black.
Yeah, I think she did too. But she did have some good nuggets and stuff, so we'll just consider that as our final words. But anyways, this concludes our final podcast of 2020, episode 15 of Mahogany Thoughts, season 2. We will.
I agree with what Terry is saying, that just time to move forward, grow, and to expand.
You cutting out, Queen?
Hear me?
Yeah. Yes or no?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think my connection is bad for some reason, but I just wanted to second on what Butler said.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, that officially concludes our podcast. Thank you everybody for watching us. Whether it's 5 minutes or an entire show, every episode, we definitely appreciate your support. Please share the word. The videos are downloadable on YouTube channel, Dr. Terrence Duncan. The podcast, you can download the audio version on Spotify, and you can go on the website, www.drtduncan.com/podcast. Again, www.drtduncan.com/podcast. We wish everybody a very safe and happy holidays, and we pray that that we continue to remain united in causes that is not only central to the Black community and stuff, but for your own family, your friends, and continue to love and support each other. So with that said, God bless you guys, and we are out.
Awesome.
Till
Good
next
night.
week.
Good night.